Hey, and welcome back to another video. This is the second episode of the story in which being born as the oldest of triplets, but being written off as the least prodigal of the three, Naruto will show them that there is more than meets the eye. With the help from a friend he will shake the world on end, prophecies be damned. He will be who he wants to be. He will show the world the power of a dragon. Please support by liking and subscribing. Let's start the show. What are you doing out here alone, child? The giant serpent asked the boy across from him in the clearing. The dragon saw the young boy had midnight black hair and looked no older than 6. From the voice, Naruto could identify it being male. Naruto tried to say something, but fear made his mind shut down and caused his breathing to stop. The creature made to stand but quickly fell to the ground, causing the ground and trees to shake. The young boy with fear peaked, bolted from the area as fast as he could. The beast called out for the boy to stop but was too late. Naruto ran as fast as his little legs could carry him, worried that the monster he had just seen was going to follow him. He ran and ran till he needed to rest. Naruto gulped for air as he was bent over, one hand on his knee and the other on a tree for support. Naruto looked back and didn't see the monster chasing after him. I got away, and it's not coming after me, Naruto sighed to settle his nerves. That didn't last, however, as he heard the beast let out a roar. Naruto made to run again until something stopped him. Listening to roar, it didn't have a sound of anger. Instead, it sounded sad. Naruto stopped and turned from the direction he came from. Naruto felt pity for the monster he had seen. Naruto started to retrace his steps back the way he ran from. Arriving back towards the clearing, Naruto kept to the tree line to hide. What he witnessed was something the young boy would never forget. It was big, whatever it was. Its head could rival the size of the Hokage heads, which has a triangular head with horns, a pair of large, round eyes with bright green sclera. Its neck was short as a small tree, and muscular. Its body was muscular, like its neck, along with the body. 4 muscular legs were attached to the body. The wings of the beast were large, bony like a reptile with scales on the top, and the undersides were like a bat's. The wings were enormous. They reminded Naruto of the tarps that come out during the festivals, except they were the size of a house roof. The monster had one of its wings trapped within the ground, and looking at the stem where the wing was connected to the back showed it was all twisted and most likely broken beyond repair. The beast was curled in on itself, blocking its view of the boy. Naruto took a brave step forward, then another and another. Naruto eventually made it to about half the distance to the beast. Gathering his courage he spoke out in a tiny voice, "Hello." The wing quickly dropped and revealed the monster's face. Naruto unconsciously took a step back. The eyes of the beast were narrow slits, and its nostrils flared as smoke floated out of them. Its eyes scanned the area looking for any signs of hostility. When the monster saw the boy near it and no other sense, its appearance relaxed. The beast talked back to the small child in a low voice, "Hello, little hatchling." Naruto scanned the thing in front of him. The slits of its eyes weren't slits anymore, and the nostrils were no longer flared. "Hi. Why are you so angry?" Naruto took another step closer to the beast. The beast laid its head on the ground, showing he meant no harm. "Sorry to frighten you, little one. I did not think you would come back." The beast spoke in a low voice, trying not to frighten the young boy that was inching closer and closer. "I didn't plan on it, but then I heard you cry out. You sound really sad," the boy said innocently as he stepped closer again. If the monster wanted to eat him, it was the perfect opportunity to do so. He couldn't get very far. "I am angry and sad, little one, because I am trapped," the reptile replied. Of all the things that this thing could have said, Naruto was not expecting that. The boy was curious. It had giant wing, it could have flown away, but why not? Why not just leave? Naruto asked. "My wing is trapped in the ground. I cannot move without fear of losing it," the beast said in a solemn tone. It twisted its neck and looked back behind, the cause of his pain still embedded in the ground. Naruto hated seeing this creature. In fact, any animal being in pain, he made his way towards the creature's back and sees where the wing is buried. It didn't look that bad at first, but when he looked at the other free wing, he realized how big the wings were. The wing was very deep in the ground. Naruto looked at the body of the giant lizard, whose head was peeking over its shoulder, looking at the small boy. Naruto saw something in its eyes. It was a spark of something, it was hope. Naruto gave a determined nod and then squatted down where the wing was buried and began to dig with his bare hands. Hatching, what are you doing? The reptile asked, wondering why the boy was helping him. What does it look like? I'm trying to dig you out, still digging into the dirt, not even looking up at the beast. He was focused on getting it out. However, he was making very little progress. Naruto was already starting to get winded, and his fingers were hurting from trying to dig in the dirt. What's your name? He huffed out, not looking up as he continued digging. The beast looked at the small boy that was trying to help him. The beast saw the determination in the boy's body and heard the conviction in his words, caused a smile to spread across its maw. My name is Cringeon, and I am a dragon. Naruto went raged. Cringeon started to get nervous, he expected the boy to jump up and leave him again. It was then the boy turned around and had stars as his eyes, a dragon. For real, the boy's voice boomed through the clearing. The outburst caused the dragon's eyes to widen. The boy was not afraid but in awe. Cringeon chuckled at the boy's wonder of his being. You guys are supposed to be a myth. The stuff of legends. The boy was now touching the Cringeon's back, feeling his scales. The scales were the armor of the dragon. The scales were smooth like metal when petting them down, but when petting them up, it was like sandpaper. It was then Naruto began to climb up Cringeon's back in his excitement. Naruto was examining the spines that donned the ridge of Cringeon's back. The spines were round, no really meant for combat, but more of a defense. Then he crawled on the beast's neck. The neck was very thick and short, it was mainly muscle to back up the powerful jaws. Naruto then stood on the neck and then reached for the horns that were on top of Cringeon's head. The horns were sharp at the top and had the shape of a cone. If Cringeon wanted, he could do some damage with these objects. Cringeon allowed Naruto to examine him the way he did. Cringeon could only smile at the boy's wonder as the boy climbed him. Even with all the tugging and poking, he allowed the child to continue. As he got the horns, he smiled at the expression on the boy's face. After giving the boy his fun, he tilted his head, causing the boy to fall onto the dirt. He received a small whine for his action. Naruto quickly got up and dusted off his pant. He gave a toothy smile to the dragon, and he received one back. He went back to where the wing was trapped, began digging again. There was peaceful silence between the two. It was Naruto that broke the silence. So how did you get stuck here? Cringeon stared off into deep thought. He stayed quiet for some time. Naruto was about to ask again, thinking Cringeon didn't hear his question. I have been asking myself that same question. He turned his neck to look at Naruto, who stopped. I was flying when I suddenly felt a weird sensation and then there was a yellow flash. Next thing I know is I feel like I crashed into the ground and my wing was stuck in the ground. Naruto looked up at the dragon frowning. He felt pity for Cringeon, for a mighty beast that ruled the sky to be stuck on, or in his case in, the ground. Cringeon deserved to be free. It rejuvenated Naruto as he dug in the ground with renewed vigor. So you don't know how you got here, huh? Well, Cringeon-san, you are lucky I came along. If you were stuck here for a couple more days, you could have died. I have been stuck here for more than a day, hatchling, Cringeon stated. Naruto paused and looked up at Cringeon. So what, a week? When the dragon did not answer but seemed to deflate. Cringeon, how long have you been stuck here? The mighty beast then turned towards Naruto. I have been stuck here for 5 years, Naruto. Naruto was not expecting that. Cringeon has been stuck here since he had been born. Naruto's enthusiasm nearly tripled as he dug into the ground. We got to get you out, the boy yelled. Cringeon's eyes almost popped out of his head by the vigor the boy dug with. You could die. This caused a hearty chuckle to escape Crinejin. I am not going to die, foolish boy, but, if you have been stuck here, what have you been eating and drinking? Naruto questioned, still not letting up in his digging. The rain for a drink, we dragons can keep water inside us for months. For what I have been eating, well, bird must have mistaken me as a place to nest. There is also the sun that we can use to feed us. We dragons can use the heat of the sun as a temporary food source, said with great pride. He also had, on a rare occasion, gotten to eat an all too curious deer, but he didn't want to frighten the small child. Naruto had sighed in relief and continued his dig. So can shoot fire from your mouth, like in the stories? Still mystified by the legend that he was helping. Some can, yes, others can breathe other elements like ice, wind, and metal itself, Crinejin replied. Stars and twinkles replaced Naruto's eyes, hearing the power these beasts held. But what can you shoot from your mouth? Naruto asked, stopping his digging to look up at Crinejin. The giant reptile gave a toothy grin and held his head up and shot out a small plume of fire, then followed by ice, then lightning and a small tornado of metal. When he was done, he turned towards the young child and was amused by the expression on the boy's face. A big goofy smile, and he was jumping up and down in excitement. That was so cool. How you do that, the boy? That is a story for another time. Crinejin looked and saw that the sun had started to fall behind the trees. I think it is time for us to part ways. For now, at least, the dragon pointed his nose to the setting sun, gaining the boy's attention. All right, I cannot wait to tell my family about you. Naruto finished wiping himself off and was about to run home. Stop. Naruto froze where he stood. He turned his attention to the dragon. Tell no one of me, why? Naruto asked out of curiosity. I do not want humans to know where I am, Crinejin stated with venom in his voice. He may have not been afraid of humans, but he had no intention of them finding him. His people and humans have been known to kill each other for just existing. They are a greedy, bloodthirsty, and untrustworthy race. You are hatchling, there is innocence still in you. But full-grown humans are dangerous, I will not trust them, Crinejin stated with finality in rage. Okay, I guess, stated a little hurt by the comment about humans. He didn't hurt Crinejin and he never would. It was then Naruto realized how late it was getting. Oh, crap. Kazan is going to be furious, as he quickly stood and started to make a run in the direction of the village. He turned on his heel, so he was running backward, waving at the dragon. See you tomorrow, Crinejin. The boy then turned and ran full sprint into the tree line. Konoha Gate. Naruto made it to the gate as the sun had finally set, quickly checking the checkpoint to see if anyone was in the guardhouse. To his luck, there was no one. He quickly ran through the streets of Konoha, getting odd looks from the civilians and ninja alike. Naruto made it to the clan district, where he ran past the Hyuga and Inuzuka compound gates. When he got to the gate, he placed his hand on the symbol of the Uzumaki and Namikaze. There was a glow, and the gate responded. Was a click from the lock, and the gate became ajar. The front entrance of the compound was, for lack of simple terms, beautiful. There was a small pond in the center of the yard. Inside the pond was a little island with a small oak tree growing on the grass. Sakura trees decorated the walkway that was marked by white stones. The lawn was a vibrant green. The house itself was a two-story minka, with a wooden porch with a canopy that held a set of chairs on the porch. The front door was a thick metal door that had a lion face with a metal knocker on it. Naruto tried the doorknob, hoping it would be open. His unbelievable luck benefited him again. The door opened with ease, and no noise signaled it was opened. In the small walkway of the entrance, held a small table with a mirror above it. The living room had not changed much since the years that had passed. The living room had a clear view of the stairs, so Naruto peeked and saw that no one was waiting for him. He started to climb the stairs slowly. As he made it about halfway up the stairs, his spine went rigid by the voice that called out for him, Naruken. The voice was sickly sweet, and Naruto had half a mind to run out the front door and hope that he could get away. Naruto went to go step up the stairs when he felt something wrap around his ankle. He knew what came next, and it was him being dragged through the house. When he stopped, he was suspended in midair with a transparent chain. It was his mother's all-too-familiar Congo Fusa that was coming out of her back. Even though he was upside down, he could tell he was in the dining room. He saw his family looking at him, each having a different expression on their faces. His mother, who hadn't changed much since the night of the sealing, was giving him an overly sweet smile. Naruto knew that smile held no joy whatsoever. His father, who was slightly sweating from the aura his wife was giving off, had his eyes closed and gave a shaky laugh for his oldest son. His younger brother, who was the spitting image of his father, blonde hair and all, looked at Naruto, annoyed and leaning his elbow with his head in his palm. Then there was his sister, the baby of the family, was smiling at Naruto. However, unlike their mother, her smile was warm and filled with happiness to see her Anakin. Naruto could do only one thing, laugh nervously and hope his mother didn't kill him. Hey cousin, what's up? The smile never faded from Kushina's face, but a tick mark did grow. That's all you have to say for yourself. More chains sprouted from his mother's back, causing Naruto to stop laughing and swallow instead. Kushikin, relax, he knows he messed, and he's sorry. Right Naruto? Minato laid the groundwork to save his son, he just hoped he took it. Yeah, cousin, I am really sorry, for what he was sorry for, he didn't know. Come on, cousin, Oni is late. So what? Can we eat now? Menma groaned out and took the fork in hand, ready to dig into the meal that was displayed on the table. Ah, so that is why he is in trouble. Being late for dinner was a big no-no for his mother, who enforced this rule with an iron fist. Kushina let out a sigh and let her son drop to the ground unceremoniously, then gave him a come here motion. His sister giggled as Naruto presented himself to his mother. She looked at his shirt and his hands. Another tick mark grew on her head, and her hair began to float and move around like swaying tails. Then she gripped Naruto by the scruff of his dirt-encrusted shirt. What happened, Naruto? Why are you so dirty? Anger filled her eyes. First, he was gone all day, he was late for dinner, and he comes back covered in dirt. Naruto's eyes widened like dinner plates. I was helping a friend, and I lost track of time, he said as he guarded his face. All of a sudden, he was dropped, looking up in fear. Then he was hugged and tossed around like a rag doll. Kushina was cuddling her face into his midnight hair. My oldest baby is making friends. I am so proud. The family sweat dropped together. The matriarch of the family had regular mood swings all the time. She kept hugging her oldest as she puts him down. Now go wash up, you're filthy. Naruto went to the kitchen to wash up. Hurry up. We're having ramen, his mother shouted out. Naruto sulked into the kitchen, muttering under his breath, I hate ramen. His siblings, however, were already eating to their heart's content. That night dinner went on, as usual. The children and parents ate and talked about their day. It was close to midnight as the matriarch and patriarch got ready for bed. Kushina was in a red lacy nightgown, and Minato was wearing only his boxers. Kushina was brushing her hair and looking into a large vanity mirror. Behind her came Minato as he started to kiss her neck and make his way up to her ear. Kushina let out a giggle and a moan as she playfully swatted him away. Stop. So instead of kissing his wife, he began to massage her shoulders. Her response to that was a moan and lean into his touch. I can't help it if I find my wife so incredibly stunning, he said, and then pecked her cheek. Minato continued to massage, but then the playfulness left him. I think it is time for Menma and Narumi to begin training. Kushina instantly tensed up. She quickly wiped around and was now facing him with wide shock-filled eyes. They're only kids, Minato, she tried to reason. She knew that the children had a responsibility being Jinchuriki and children of the Hokage, but they were still just that, children. Minato looked at his wife with pity. He even felt sympathy for his two children. He wanted them to have more of a childhood. Still, their duty demanded they be ready. They need be ready, Kushiheim. They already have two big targets on their backs. Kushina knew that IWA going after the kids was a possibility since they were Minato's children. The one she didn't account for was the secret organization that was going to hunt down Jinchuriki for their bijou. People are going to try and kill them. Kushina to either get to me or the Kyubi. I want them to be strong enough to protect themselves. He grabs her shoulders gently to reassure her. Kushina wanted the children to have a childhood, and she would be damned if their lives were going to be filled with training. When the kids are 10 you can train them, she said to her husband. Minato's plan backfired on him, but Kushi. 5 years, she said with finality. Fine, you win. He kissed her on the nose. Like always, a question popped into her head. He mentioned only 2 of her children. What about Naruto? IWA will go after him first, Kushina asked, thinking about her midnight-haired child. IWA would kill the oldest heir of the clan to weaken them. Minato gave a small smile. I have something figured out for him. Minato then continued to massage his wife's shoulders. Kushina was relieved all the kids were going to be taken care of as her husband continued to adjust her sore muscles. Kushina was moaning, her brush placed on the vanity dresser. Minato moved the straps of the nightgown down off the shoulders of his wife. She turned and kissed him. She gently guided him to bed and then pushed him onto it. She let the nightgown drop to the ground, and Minato quickly followed and stripped himself. The light was immediately turned off soon after. The next morning Naruto was already making his way toward where he left Crinejin yesterday. Today he came prepared. In his hands was a bag he took from home, inside was a plastic shovel that he found. He followed his internal compass and came upon the clearing. He shouted, "Oi! Crinejin! If you were to quickly scan over the clearing, you would see a boulder lying near the opposite tree line." Crinejin was curled in a ball, with his one good wing draped over him to hide. He was back where he belonged in the realm of dragons. He was flying with his kin, something that he wished he could do once again. The chilly low atmospheric air filled his lungs, and the warming beams of the sun warmed his scales. Younglings were flying, causing trouble wherever they went. Suddenly a voice called him, and pain shot through his body. His right wing was then ripped to tatters and began to fall. The ground was coming closer and closer. Crinejin quickly jumped and turned towards the sound of the voice and hissed. Fire came out the sides of his maw. Crinejin immediately saw the young boy from yesterday. Naruto, if he remembered right. Naruto was not smiling. In fact, he looked damn near close to wetting himself. Tears seemed ready to spill from his eyes. Crinejin calmed himself and tried to soothe the boy. "Sorry hatchling, I didn't mean to scare you." Crinejin attempted to ease the boy. Naruto walked forward slowly with the shovel in hand and then got close to the mighty beast. "I came back to help." He showed the shovel to the dragon. Naruto got where the wing was embedded in the ground, and using the shovel began to dig. They sat in silence for some time, the only sound coming from the grunting of Naruto digging. Crinejin finally spoke after an hour of silence. "I did not think you were coming back." Naruto continued digging but looked at the dragon with a toothy smile and gave a chuckle. "I told you I would come back." He dug with vigor and his progress so far was not much. "Guess you did, young one." Crinejin sat in comfort as he allowed the boy to dig him out. The boy continued to dig for hours. The sun was at its peak before they knew it, and Naruto was beginning to get hungry. "I am going to go back to the village to eat something." Crinejin responded with a nod, and as Naruto began to walk away, he heard a growl. He quickly turned, thinking Crinejin was going to eat him. The noise was Crinejin's stomach, who looked away in shame and in pain. "Hungry, huh? When was the last time you ate?" 3 days, Crinejin answered. "What do you want?" "I can bring something back," Naruto asked innocently. Crinejin chuckled at the boy's innocence. "You cannot hope fill my hunger. You would need something big or many to satisfy me." The boy looked at the dragon, still waiting for a response. Crinejin sighed. "Fine, I want fish. It has been a long time since I had that delicacy." Crinejin was practically drooling, thinking of the salty delicacy. Naruto thought for a second before he snapped his fingers. "I will be right back." he ran off in a different direction. A half hour later, Naruto came back, dragging a fish that was the size of a large dog by its tail. He pulled the fish, so it was in front of Cringeon. "Here you go," he said, smiling and presenting the fish to the great beast. The beast was silent, and Naruto looked at the dragon. Its mouth was watering, and he looked close to crying. "Hey, you okay?" Cringeon looked at Naruto with a smile on his maw. "Thank you, young one." Cringeon ate the fish slowly, savoring it. Cringeon laid still as Naruto went back to digging. "So how come you can shoot all that stuff out of your mouth?" Ever since he saw the fantastic ability, he was wondering why Cringeon could do it and if he could teach it to him. Cringeon chuckled at the question. "You remembered that, did you?" "What I did was called breathing. Not shooting." Naruto gave him a confused look, signaling for Cringeon to continue. "Breathing is when a dragon takes in the air in their lungs and using the magic in our bodies to change the air into a breath. Depending on what type of dragon you are, determines what type of breath you can use," Cringeon explained, looking down at the boy. The boy seemed to be confused. He was looking down and staring intently at the ground. Naruto was contemplating what the mighty dragon said. "So what kind of dragon are you?" "You show." "Breathed out all different kinds," Naruto corrected himself using Cringeon's words. He stopped shoveling and was now giving his full attention. Cringeon gave a grin. He couldn't wait for the boy's reaction. "I am a king of dragons." The response he had gotten was exactly like he expected. The child's eyes widened, and his mouth was hanging. "You are the king of dragons." Naruto shouted and quickly bowed before the dragon, his forehead now in the dirt. Kushina had read stories to Naruto and his siblings about kings, and most people bowed before a king. Cringeon laughed again as the boy in front of him degraded himself by wallowing in the dirt. He didn't want to be worshipped, but he still got a kick out of the boy's reaction. Naruto looked up slightly afraid. The fear transformed into anger as he saw the dragon mocking him. "Boy! You overgrown lizard, what is so funny?" Naruto had the shovel above his head, threatening to whack the giant dragon. He did, but Naruto's attack was like a mouse trying to kill a lion. The pathetic attack caused the dragon to trash around in laughter at the child's poor attempt of an attack. Cringeon continued to give a hearty laugh at the boy's attacks and threats before he groaned out in pain. The groan causing Naruto to sport a victory pose, but quickly stopped when he saw the dragon in distress. "Hey, what is wrong?" The fun was sucked out of the atmosphere. Naruto quickly dropped the shovel, ready to help any way possible. "Sorry, hatchling. The wound is giving me more pain today than I thought." Cringeon looked back at the wing joint and saw it ooze a mixture of blood and pus. Naruto saw the bloody appendage and, though unintentional, knew he was responsible for the pain. Seeing the bloody appendage spew blood and pus made Naruto realize that the damage was worse than he initially imagined. He got a quick idea. It might cause him some pain, but he needed to help his friend. "I will be back in a little bit." He ran off into the direction of the village. Quickly and quietly, Naruto was able to sneak back into the village. The guard again was asleep, his bandana-styled headband was over his eyes. Naruto had a destination in mind, and within minutes he was at it. Konoha's hospital was a place rarely visited, and for a good reason. Every time he went here, he always ended up staying overnight, and his bachan would make him stay in bed the whole time. He dashed by the nurse's station, one of the nurses calling out to him not to run in the hospital. He quickly got to the stairwell and got off on the third and continued to run down the hallway as he found the door he was looking for. The frosted glass on the door read "Medical Director," and he charged in. "Oi! Bachan!" Immediately a stapler made contact with his face, causing his feet to kick out underneath him. Sitting behind the desk was Tsunade, and she was less than pleased. Tsunade had taken over the hospital as its medical director and was doing medical wonders for both civilians and shinobi. The brat had the nerve to call her old lady, but then to charge into her office like he owned the place. "You damn gaki. Where do you get off coming in here like that?" Naruto quickly got back up and rubbed his face where the stapler made contact. "You crazy old bat. What was that for?" Naruto yelled back at his godmother. He usually got along with his godmother, for the most part. He was the closets to her out of his siblings. While Tsunade would never admit it to anyone, she had a soft spot for her eldest godchild. The reason for the soft spot was because of how close he resembled her deceased brother. The goofiness playful nature of the boy wormed its way into her heart, and when she saw how he acted as a big brother to his siblings, always protecting, always sure they were safe and cared for them made her smile. Tsunade and Naruto went back forth with throwing insults at one another until they both calmed down. Naruto took a breath and finally asked what he came for. "Tsunade-obakan, can you make me some medicine?" She expected many things to come out of Naruto's mouth, like, "Can we get something to eat?" or, "Can you teach me how to be super strong like you?" But asking for medicine was not something he asked for, ever. Tsunade raised an eyebrow at that question. "Why do you want medicine?" Naruto just smiled. "I need it for a friend." Tsunade was now beyond confused. From what she was told by both Narumi and Kushina, Naruto was more of a loner, who liked to map out Konoha in depth. If his father hadn't forbidden it, he would have done the sewer system. Tsunade and Kushina joked. Tsunade decided to humor him, so asking playfully and giving him a smirk, she says, "Oh, and kind of medicine do you need?" I don't know." He rubbed his head in embarrassment, and Tsunade smiled, thinking that the boy was trying to get her attention by pulling a prank. Naruto then quickly continued, "But I know the sim." Sim. Naruto tried to use one of the bigger words that Tsunade used all the time when she talked about a sick or injured patient. "Symptoms?" she asked and corrected with a raised eyebrow. "Yeah, that." Naruto answered back and nodding his head with great excitement. "Okay, then Gaki, what are the symptoms?" Tsunade said while rolling her eyes at the young boy. While it was adorable, it was starting to get annoying. "He has a big cut, and blood and this yellow stuff are coming out of the cut, and it smells really bad." Tsunade instantly sat at attention as the news Naruto gave her. The injury he was describing was a deep cut, and the yellow stuff had to be pus, so the wound was infected. Tsunade immediately went into doctor mode as she quickly went blazing past Naruto, but not before grabbing him by the collar of his shirt. Tsunade ran down the hallway towards the medical dispensary of the hospital, with Naruto being dragged behind her. She quickly let herself in and began to make a first aid bag. She quickly found some peroxide and anti-inflammatory cream. Now she went for a roll of bandages and placed them in the pack. After she was done gathering supplies, she demanded something of Naruto, bringing him up to her. They were face to face with her by holding the scruff of the shirt. "Take me to the patient." Naruto looked at her like she grew 3 heads, but then quickly shook out of her grip. Remembering the conversation he had with Krinjan and his distrust of humans, he wasn't going to bring Tsunade to him, so he came up with an idea. "Just give it to me, I'll take care of him. This isn't the time for games, Naruto, take me to him." Tsunade barked at him. "He doesn't trust people, he won't let you help him." Naruto fired back. "What the hell do you mean he won't let me help him?" Tsunade's frustration was showing at this point. "He doesn't trust people," Naruto said lowly. "Are you kidding me?" Tsunade spiked the bag in the ground. Now she was bearing down on the small boy in front of her. "You had me panicking over an animal." She was ready to throttle the young boy, and she damn well was going to tell his parents about this. It wasn't just the panic that she was sent into by his barging in her office and saying there was a sick patient that couldn't make it to the hospital. She glared at him before walking out of the medical dispensary, but not before slamming the door. Naruto was close to tears now. Tsunade had never been that harsh towards him. So he grabbed the bag and slowly made his way towards the gate. Clearing Naruto came back in clearing still hurt from his encounter with Tsunade. Krinjan noticed the small boy come out of the tree line, looking down. Krinjan became worried as the boy just climbed up onto his back and began to look at the wound. Naruto had seen Tsunade treat him and his siblings for cuts before, so it wouldn't be too difficult. Krinjan just laid there and let the climb. "Where did you go?" Krinjan asked. Naruto climbed his back like a zombie. Krinjan couldn't see Naruto, but he could feel the sadness that was radiating off the boy. I went to get you medicine. My Bachan is a doctor. Krinjan just sat and listened as the boy talked. She wanted to come to treat you herself. I told her, you do not like people, and she thought you were an animal and yelled at me for wasting her time. Krinjan felt sorry for the trouble he caused the young boy. However, he had to think of his own survival, and the boy was helping, but he would be damned if he would allow humans to find him. He wanted to just get free and find his species. If what the boy said about his kind being only legends, he needs to figure out where they are so he can go home. Krinjan felt a sting on his wing. He angled his head so that he could look at what the boy was doing. Naruto had just put down the bottle of peroxide. Naruto let it sit for a second before he put on the anti-inflammatory cream and then wrapped it with the bandage. Naruto slid down Krinjan's back and walked to his head. Naruto reached out, gently stroked the side of Krinjan's face. Krinjan's big eye looked at Naruto with question and then relaxed as the boy stroked his head. Krinjan felt some comfort from the small human who showed him kindness by getting himself in trouble, all to keep a promise to someone he had just met. Krinjan made a personal promise today to return the kindness he had been given by this small human. You are a kind-hearted child, he said. Naruto gave a small smile, appreciating the words. There was no digging for the day as Naruto just curled up next to the great dragon enjoying the heat his friend was giving off, and soon a small rhythm of breathing was all the great dragon was able to hear. Hokage Tower, same time, what do you mean not until they're 10? Jiraiya yelled at his former student standing in his office. The guards were dismissed, and the privacy seals were set into place. The screaming Jiraiya was doing wood and could have taken as an attack on the Hokage. Minato was composed. While he wasn't happy with the compromise he made with his wife, he made it and his anger was close to boiling over. The decision was made by both me and my wife, Jiraiya, said Minato with finality. Minato, those kids need to be trained, something is coming, and they need to be ready, slamming his hands on the desk. Jiraiya was eye to eye with his former student, glaring at Minato. His body language showed his aggravation as he was rigid and bearing down on the younger man. The tension was thick in the room. Minato was lucky Kushina was not in the room, otherwise, the room would be a bloody battleground. Kushina would have passionately disagreed with Jiraiya, in which Jiraiya would have had a sword by his balls by now. The answer is final, Jiraiya. The children will wait till they are 10. Minato was finished with this conversation. He didn't want to hear about it again. The prophecy states, 3 will grow from a strong tree. 2 will have great burdens to carry. 1 will rip the burden from the other. Then 1 will leave thinking himself a savior. The last will find a friend. With power, none will comprehend. The friend will pass on power. Power of a warrior. The warrior will either be the world's mend, or its end, Jiraiya said again for what seemed the 100th time. He was trying to implore Minato the importance of the prophecy the toads had given him. This was the prophecy to end all prophecies. If this prophecy is completed, no more wars, no more blood, no more losing family, no more burying loved ones, only peace. Minato's expression hardened. All Jiraiya talked about since the kids could walk was the prophecy and he was tired of hearing it. Jiraiya, you have me and my wife's answer. If that's all you came to talk about. You know where the door is. Minato waved him off and picked up a document from his desk. Jiraiya raised his fists in the air, about to slam them on the desk. Before he could, he just sighed and lowered his hands in defeat. The anger vanished and in place of Jiraiya was a man that seemed to age by decades. He walked up to the windowsill and leaned on it, looking out onto the village. He looked tired, and Minato took notice and immediately put down the paper he was reading. Jiraiya and Minato may be at each other's throats from time to time, but they were still family. Jiraiya was the closest thing he had to a father, and when Jiraiya got like this, he immediately had his attention with his back facing him. Jiraiya says to him, I am tired of it all. Minato, his voice was dry, and he sounded like he was close to breaking down. Minato's confusion and interest peaked, tired of what sensei? Minato was worried about the man's well-being and state of mind. If Jiraiya, who has been a rock for years, suddenly broke. Tired of all this fighting, the world is at each other's throat. I am tired of burying people, Minato, Jiraiya said. The sentiment was not missed on Minato, who agreed with man. I am tired of burying people I love. Minato now put a hand on his mentor's shoulder to provide comfort. There is no war now, Minato countered. You are right. No war for now, but how long until the next war? Jiraiya continued to stare out onto the village. The only reason for no war now is because of you, and the Hiraition. Jiraiya chuckled lightly and cynically said, that's a deterrent, not peace. Jiraiya looked at Minato. I know I sound like an old windbag, but there is a chance that true peace can be achieved, and we have to take as soon as possible, Jiraiya said, raising his hands up and then heavily clasping his student's shoulders. He remembered the promise he made to his old mentor before he sacrificed himself. Minato gave a light chuckle. I understand, sensei, and like I said, in 5 years you, me and Kushina will train the kids. Jiraiya sighed heavily, but in a more relaxed manner, and shook his head. I ever tell you what Saratobi sensei told me before he died? Jiraiya knew Minato didn't know, but he wanted to share it with him. Minato shook his head, and so Jiraiya retold the events of the night. He told me I was his true student, and so master told student the story of years ago. 2 years later, Menma and Narumi watched as Naruto diverted from their path and was heading in a different direction from the park. Menma and Narumi would have followed, but their last experience was still fresh in their minds. They followed, but quickly lost him in the crowds and twists and turns he took. They both ended up lost and had to cry out for help, and luckily a purple-haired woman with a trench coat helped them back to the park. It was after that event that they never went looking for their brother again. Should we tell Kacchan and Tuchan? Narumi asked her brother. Menma had rolled the idea around in his head for a little bit. Menma wanted his brother to be with them, but if he or sister were to rat him out. Well, he hated the idea of his older brother hating him. So with his hands behind his head and marching like a soldier, he said, nah. It's not like anything will happen. Narumi nodded at her brother's logic and continued on with him. As the two got to the park, their ears picked up the sound of their friends having fun. Most of their friends were there, Sasuke, Shikamaru, Ino, Choji, Kiba with his new puppy Akomaru and Shino. They were laughing and chasing one another, trying to tag each other. The two ran towards the group ready to enjoy a day at the park with Naruto. Naruto was making tracks down the street. He was late. He usually was up at the crack of dawn, but after last night he was tired. The Uzumaki Namikaze family went out last for the celebration of him and his sibling's birthday. It was a boring party with all the clans coming over and bringing gifts for him and his siblings. Naruto and his sibling had gotten many gifts. From his parents, his sister was given a new kimono. It was a dark red with the Uzumaki swirl predominantly on it. Menma was given a sealing kit from his parents. Naruto had been given a gift as well, a sketch pad, and a set of pencils. At first, he was confused, but his parents said he could use it to make maps, and he became excited about the idea. Another gift he had relatively liked or wanted was a map of the elemental nations, given to him by Ero Sennin. The map was from after the Third Great Shinobi War, where all the territories and villages of today were settled. The map was huge, it occupied most of the wall above his desk. The map was greatly detailed, showing mountain ranges, lakes, rivers, and main roads. Naruto's musings came to a halt when he tumbled into something. Naruto's face came into contact with something that felt like a metal pole. Naruto landed on his butt, rubbing his forehead to try easing the pain. His eyes were tearing up when he looked at what he had run into. It was a girl. She had fair skin, green eyes, and pink hair. She wore her hair up, so it was styled into bangs that covered her forehead. In her hair was a red bow, her shirt was blue, and she wore a cream-colored skirt. She, like Naruto, was rubbing her head, trying ease the pain. Naruto could figure out when they collided, their foreheads connected, and remembering the lesson of etiquette that his mother and Abakan lectured, into him. Sorry about that, he held a hand out for her to grab up. Villagers and shinobi who witnessed the accident quickly stopped to look and then left on their merry way. She stopped rubbing her head and the tears away and looked up at the voice. She quickly saw a dark-haired boy holding his hand out for her. She instantly knew who he was. Everyone in the village knew of the Uzumaki Namikaze triplets. Naruto made eye contact with her. He noticed that her eyes had signs of tears and felt awful for causing the girl pain. She didn't move to grasp his hand. Thinking she was still unsure about him, he remembers something his father had said about girls to him. And his brother. He then gave her a great big smile. The girl's cheeks instantly became a shade of pink that matched her hair. She gingerly reached up to the boy's hand and grasped it. The boy effortlessly brought her to her feet in a single motion. He then reached out his hand. Whether it was fear or shyness, she didn't know, but she leaned away from his hand. She closed her eyes. Naruto reached his hand out and gently started to rub off the dirt that had gotten on her shirt and skirt. The girl slightly back away from him, but he couldn't blame her. He did tumble into her. She felt the boy pat her shirt and flick her skirt. When he stopped, she opened her eyes and saw him still smiling at her. Well, gotta run. See you around, he said as he ran off, giving her a two-finger salute and smile. Sakura watched as one of the princes of Konoha left her in the middle of the road. She waved at him stiffly and replied back in a soft voice that was not heard by anyone but her. Clearing after 2 years, sneaking out of the village was child's play for Naruto. For some reason, they kept the sleeping brown-haired Chunin on guard duty. Either way, Naruto made his way to the clearing he had been working in for these last couple of years, but not before stopping by the river for fish. There, sitting where he always was Cringeon, the sun reflecting off his scales, making him look like a beacon. The wound on his wing joint seemed to be healing and not as infected as before. It was all thanks to Naruto regularly treating and bandaging it. The hole had the shovel in it, and it was expanded. The hole was now the length of a swimming pool and was as deep as Naruto's thighs. The wing was also starting to show. While progress was slow, Naruto was able to dig out to a point where he began to uncover the webbing of the wing. Right now, Cringeon was just finishing another fish that was slinking down his throat. Naruto himself had a couple roasting on a fire, courtesy of Cringeon's fire breathing. The two were taking a break. Naruto had made significant progress for doing all the digging by himself and being 7. Naruto was using the new sketch pad and pencil to use as he began to draw the head of Cringeon, which was resting on his front claws. That's awesome. You were chosen to be a dragon king because you breathe all those elements? Naruto asked. Throughout the years, Naruto had learned plenty about dragons and their culture. He learned dragons valued fighting, being the strongest, and wisdom, being ready for anything that may come. Most importantly, though, they valued family. Naruto liked their ideals. It was similar to the Uzumaki's view. He wished he could be big and strong like Cringeon or his parents. Smart like his Abakan and wise like Erosenin, but not as perverted. Naruto loved hearing all the stories that Cringeon could tell. Many of them involved how in the mornings hatchling and their mothers take to the sky. The mothers would teach the hatchlings to fly and hunt. Elders would teach youngling everything about the world, from the stars above and their lessons and guidance to the reason why all life ends. Fathers would take their young to show them how to breathe. Cringeon gave a hearty laugh. The boy had come over 2 years here asking about him and his people. Never to turn the child down from a story, he decided to tell him more of his youth. I was the oldest of all my siblings, but I came from the smallest egg. As I grew, I couldn't breathe anything, not even fire. Cringeon closed his eyes in nostalgia but quickly opened them when Naruto threw a rock at him to open his eyes. He had forgotten that he was modeling for the boy to draw. Cringeon responded by slamming his tail down near the boy, causing Naruto to fall over. Now, where was I? Oh yes. So I couldn't breathe at all. and my father was disappointed. Disappointed that the oldest of his new litter of hatchlings were not able to mold magic at my age and breathe. Kryngin ended with a sigh, then he started to focus on my eldest sister. She was able to breathe ice at my age. Kryngin continued on as he looked sideways at the boy who was now more focused on the story than his drawing. One night, I slipped from our nest and went out to one of the many cliffs that were part of our land. I went to the edge of the cliff, breathed in, and tried to shape the magic in my lungs and gave the strongest roar I could possibly manage. Nothing came out. For hours I spent trying to shape the magic in my lungs. My throat became dry and raw, and I sat and cried on that edge. Kryngin then smiled, his fangs showing through his lips. I then remembered the words my father told us when we started. Breathe. Just breathe. Reach out, feel the magic around you. Feel the grass. Feel the air in your lungs. Feel the fire within your soul. Let it build and finally let it out. I opened my eyes and roared. With it came a great beam of fire that boiled the ocean around my island. Kryngin gave a proud smile from telling his story. It also grew because of the doe-eyed expression of Naruto. So, what was your father like when you showed him? Naruto begged him to continue. He was proud. As I grew older and stronger, I was able to breathe more breaths. He was proud, and soon I earned the title of king. The only way to get that is for it to be bestowed upon you by an old king who is dying. After that, I had many females, young and old, tried to get me to breathe. Kryngin paused, remembering that the boy was still young and had no interest in telling the boy how the male and female anatomy work. Naruto looked at him to continue. Well, I will tell you that when you are older. Arrow dodged. Naruto groaned out. Naruto loved hearing these stories. It made him want to get up and fight right now. Whom he would fight, he didn't know, but it made him excited nonetheless. There was a question that he had been dying to ask. What's magic? That was a question Kryngin didn't expect, but like a wise sage was willing to teach. Magic is everything. It surrounds us, it penetrates us, it's in all living things from the smallest bug to the tallest of mountains. Magic is linked with the origins of the dragons and all people. Without magic, the world would not exist. Kryngin instructed. He looked down pleased, seeing Naruto absorb the information. To Naruto, the words that Kryngin said were almost similar to what his cousin and Tusen described. Chakra. Do you mean chakra? Kryngin was confused by the word, for he never heard of the word. What is chakra? Now both parties were staring at each other with confusion and thinking the other is stupid. My Tusen said that chakra is in all living things. It sounds like what you said magic was, Naruto stated, making Kryngin go wide-eyed. Kryngin stared intently at the boy, his eyes becoming slits, trying to see if he was lying. He wasn't focusing his anger on the boy. No, he felt fear for the first time in a long time. Fear of the unknown. Naruto also wanted to ask another question. So did you guys ever have a summoner? Naruto had been dying to ask this question. He was hoping to maybe even ask if he could be added to their list of summoners. Kryngin looked at boy sharply. What the hell do you mean summoner? No one controls a dragon, and no calls us like some loyal dog. Kryngin words came out harsh and caused Naruto to back away from the giant lizard. Kryngin quickly settled his anger as to not frighten the boy. Can you tell me where the Scale Islands are from here? Naruto shook his head negative. How about the boiling sea? Again, he got the same answer from the boy. Naruto then flipped through his drawing pad. He walked over to the drake and helped up a drawing of the elemental nations he made. He explained where each nation was, and when asked questions by Kryngin, he answered them the best of his abilities. When it started to become apparent, none of the locations that Kryngin were asking about were on the map. Dread washed over him. The map Naruto presented to him was not like the maps his people have made. All these years stuck here, he thought words like Konoha, elemental nations were just the names humans gave the land his people had other names for. Looking at the map, it was not the same land at all, and according to the boy, this was the land of the known world. Kryngin started to think and panic set in, then suddenly his eyes turned to slit, staring directly at drawing then towards the boy holding it. It wasn't intentional, but it was too late as he roared. Naruto noticed, causing him to fall back on his rear and crawled away out of the range of Cringeon. Cringeon thrashed about undoing all the healing he had done with his wing joint, causing it to gush blood. Naruto saw the damage that Cringeon was unknowingly doing to himself. Cringeon-san. Stop. You're hurting yourself. Naruto crept slightly towards him, shouting and trying to calm the raging beast. He tried to get close, but a thrashing tail hit Naruto dead, one flinging him across the clearing. Cringeon's head snapped towards the sound of the cry of Naruto. Immediately the slits in the eyes were gone, and rage replaced with guilt. The boy for 2 years put time and energy into helping him. Who treated him with kindness, who was his friend, was more than likely hurt because of his outburst. Cringeon immediately tried to move, but the pain of the reopened wound reminded him that his wing was still trapped in the ground. Naruto got up slowly. His body was aching something terrible. His chest hurt, causing him to look down, and he saw that his shirt was shredded. A small red gash was already forming on his chest and bleeding slightly. The thorn on Cringeon's tail had nearly sliced the lucky boy in half. Naruto looked down at his chest and lightly touched it. It stung, making Naruto suck air through his teeth. Naruto looked at the dragon with his big blue eyes that threatened to spill tears. Cringeon saw something he had never seen: the child that he had befriended over the years. He saw fear for the first time since that child had first stumbled upon him in the clearing all these years ago. Then the look of betrayal as the boy slowly got up and retreated back into the tree line slowly. Naruto wait, if the boy hurt him. He didn't respond as he walked away from Cringeon. Cringeon tried to get up again, but the pain kept him grounded. Cringeon put his head down in shame as his only source of companionship left him. Hokage compound Menma and Narumi had just come back from the park and were being put to work by a pregnant Kushina who sat at the table coordinating the two children. Menma was scrubbing a pan while silently cursing, while Narumi was drying. All right, when you two are done with that, Menma, you can sweep the porch, and Narumi, can you please help me with making dinner? Menma instantly tensed. His mother could not see his face, but his sister did. It took all of Narumi's self-control and a hand to cover her mouth to not burst out laughing. Menma was sweating, and his teeth were clenched, grinding the upper and lower teeth. Of course, dearest Kachin. Damn slave driver. Suddenly the hairs on Menma's neck stood at attention, and he felt the back of head heat up. He also noticed his sister took 2 full steps away from him, and then a sickly sweet voice caught his attention. What was that, dear? I hope that wasn't you using foul language. I know I didn't teach my boy to use that kind of language. Menma quickly ran out of the kitchen, grabbing the broom from the closet and shot out to the back porch. Kushina looked at her daughter and gave a wink. Works every time, which her daughter replied back with a wink of her own. She would have to talk about Jiraiya about his choice of words around her children. Kushina began directing her daughter in cutting the vegetables when a mischievous smirk spread across her face. So, is there any boy I have to tell your 2 cents about yet? Narumi's cheeks immediately went bright red out, and she let out a whine. Kachin. Kushina then put her hands up, showing she was teasing and done antagonizing her daughter. She then smiled again. You will tell me, right? We girls gotta stick together in this house. She gave a bright smile and then looked down, rubbing her swollen belly. When this one comes around we will be even with the boys. A girl? How do you know? Narumi asked. The idea of another girl in the house, an idea that thrilled her. A mother knows these things, she said with a smile, and they both laughed. Their musings were cut short when the front door opened and then closed. Kushina got to the door, and what she saw made her heart stop in her chest. Oh Kami. Naruto. The commotion caused Narumi to run to the front door as well. Kachin, what's the pro? Narumi's words died in her throat as she gasped, and she covered her mouth. What the hell is going on? Oh shit. Menma, having heard his mother yell, came rushing in from the outside, and then seeing his older brother, with an empty look on his face, bloody and beaten, standing in front of his mother and sister not making eye contact. Kushina let Menma off the hook for the little slip that came out. She rushed to her knees. She quickly examined her oldest son, who acted like a puppet. He allowed her to examine his injuries. "Are you okay? How did this happen?" she fussed over her son. The cut wasn't life-threatening, but it was deep enough to make him bleed heavily. Kushina looked over to her younger son, Menma. "Go activate the seal under the kitchen table, hurry." The house had multiple Hiratian seals within it, mainly in the bedrooms, kitchen, and the living room. All the family had to do was place a hand on it, and Minato would know he was needed. However, Menma didn't move as he kept his eyes glued to his older brother's bloody chest. "Menma, go." Menma then scurried off to get his father. Kushina stripped the torn shirt from her son. She then turned to Narumi. "There is first aid kit in the bathroom upstairs, go get it." Narumi, like Menma, froze, but she was got a question out first. "Is Anakin going to be okay?" Kushina barked at her as well. "I don't know. Go get the kit." Narumi got teary-eyed as she never had to experience her mother yelling at her. She went running up the stairs as fast as she could. Kushina needed the kit to help her son. Because of her pregnancy she couldn't correctly channel chakra. When a kunoichi is pregnant, their chakra network was primarily focused on the developing baby inside her. The chakra network flowed chakra into the developing fetus, helping it form a chakra network of its own. The Shozen Jutsu was a no-go. If she tried, she could possibly lose the baby. There was a loud boom that came from the kitchen. "What's going? What's the problem?" Menma points towards the front door, not daring to speak. Heavy and fast stomping signaling his approach. "Kushina, are you okay? Is it the baby?" His blood froze when he saw the state of the oldest. Immediately rage came over his face. What happened? The fury in his voice would have made oceans freeze over. Gone was the man the children knew as father. In its place was a shinobi no through the land as Kiroi Senko. "I don't know, he came in like this, hasn't said a word," Kushina replied as she was waiting for her daughter to return with the first aid kit. That answer was not good enough for the man, as he was now in front of Naruto as he, "I want to know who did this to my son." His fists were balled, and his anger showed in his voice as he shouted. "Minato," his wife hissed as she noticed her daughter standing behind her husband. Minato turned, and Narumi dropped the medical kit, as her eyes widened and she fell backward pale as a ghost. Minato felt his heart drop by the look of fear in his daughter's face. Minato reached out, "Rumikin," but she backpedaled from him and ran to her brother, who hugged her tight, who was sporting his own scared expression. He sighed and looked away. He felt terrible that his children had to see that side of him. He picked up the kit that was dropped and handed it to his wife. "How bad is it?" He kneeled so he was eye level with his wife and son. "From what I can see, it isn't too bad. I don't think we need Tsunade or the hospital. I can take care of it." She quickly treated the wound and wrapped it up. The parents both noticed a couple of things. Usually, when applying a disinfectant to a 7-year-old with a cut this big, there would be some sort of reaction. Naruto, however, never made a sound except for a thank you that came out that was softer than a whisper. Kushina got up and corralled her other children that were watching from the doorway with tears in their eyes and concern on their faces. Kushina brought them away and was assaulted with questions of, "What happened to Nasan/Chan? Is he okay? What is Tusan/Chan going to do? He will be okay, little ones." Kushina smiled as she got them to the kitchen to give them something to eat and try to take their minds off their brother. Naruto went to go upstairs, but was stopped by the gentle grasp on his shoulder by his father. "What happened?" His voice was soft, and he was squatted down to get eye level as to show his son he was genuinely concerned. "I met someone, he was my friend," Naruto replied, but still kept his head low, not making eye contact. "He needed help when I first met him. He did want to bother anybody, so he was trying to do everything himself." Naruto wiped his eyes with his arm and then looked at his father. "I helped him. He was happy." Naruto's eyes started to, "We would get into fights all the time, but we would forgive each other. He would tell me stories of his life." Minato was now feeling a mixture of happiness and dread. Happiness that his oldest made a friend and dread for he had. A feeling of what happened, well, he got upset, and he got mad. Really mad, Naruto touched his chest where he was bandaged. Minato frowned lightly, while his son was vague he could put the pieces together. He was saddened that a person his oldest son had befriended had gone and hurt him, whether intentional or not. Minato would get the child's name and talk to his parents. It's okay, how about you go upstairs and lay down? Naruto nodded and left for his bedroom. Minato watched as he disappeared from view. He then went to the kitchen and found his other children in tears along with his wife trying to calm them. As soon as he was in the kitchen, he was assaulted by questions from his children. However, they were immediately dismissed by his wife, who told them to go in the living room. They protested, but a smile from her calmed them, and they did as they were told. The smile quickly fell when she looked at her husband, and even the hair on the back of his neck stood up as he saw the cold fury on his wife's face. Who do I have to kill? Her hair lifting in the air and whipping around like a certain fox. Minato was lucky his wife kept her sword locked away in the vault in the basement of the house. Minato put his hands up in a dismissive manner. Now Kushikin, there is no need for that. The fire in her eyes didn't diminish. We will deal with it after tomorrow. Kushina's hair was back to being tails again. An ambassador from Kumo is coming for peace negotiations. Right now I need to worry about this. Minato was trying his best to negotiate with his wife into not going on a murderous rampage. He gripped her arms and rubbed her deltoids, trying to calm her. I need you and the children to look presentable. Kushina let out a huff as she walked up to talk to her son. Your son was just bleeding, and you can't find time for him. Her voice was ice as Minato went to retort, but she just walked past her husband and began to climb up the stairs. Even pregnant, she was still as vicious when it came to her children and their safety, willing to kill anyone and anything. Right now she was ready to throttle her husband. She got to the top of the stairs. I will take care of this. You go worry about your meeting. The venom from her voice caused him to feel a pit in his stomach. Minato looked at the stairs where his mother and oldest son disappeared from. He wanted to march up to comfort both his wife and child. He took a step on the stairs, but he remembered his other responsibility. He was the Hokage at this moment, not a husband or father, and he needed to get ready for negotiating. He went to the kitchen to his other children to calm down and get answers. Upstairs Kushina opened the door to her eldest son's room and saw he was sitting on his bed with his knees tucked into his chest as he looked out the window that was next to his bed. The sun was peeking from behind the clouds on this cloudy day. Kushina looked over her son's room as she walked across. If she could describe it in one word, it would be scholarly. The walls were filled with maps and pictures that Naruto had drawn since he was able to grasp a crayon. Naruto seemed to be interested in finding out more and more about the outside world. She remembers when she allowed her children to go out on their own to the park. He had the biggest smile of the three. Kushina reminisced about her oldest. He was the first to talk, stand, walk, run, and basically do everything for himself. She noticed that he was always exploring and was never shy about going someplace different. He almost looked forward to it. She remembered the one time he ran off and she found him staring out the gates of the village. The boy made her hair turn slightly gray that day, but it was unintentional, and she never held it against him. Kushina sat down at the foot of the bed next to her son. Naruto didn't move or give attention to Kushina as she sat down. Kushina's face donned a warm, motherly smile. She then reached out and touched her oldest dark black and rubbed it. It was spiker than her husband's or Menma's. Kushina and Minato had agreed it came from Minato's side of the family. While playing with his hair and rubbing his scalp, Kushina's soft voice reached Naruto's ears. Want to tell me what happened? Naruto turned and looked at his mother. Red stains were around his eyes and cheeks, showing he had been crying. Naruto recalled the tale he told his father about a friend who had hurt him. Kushina just sat and listened to him while she fiddled with his hair. After the story was finished, he began to cry again. Kushina laid him down, so his head was her lap, and she began to hum a lullaby. When she noticed he had started to snore softly, she placed him on the pillow of his bed and began to walk out, though he back and feet protested, and the kick to her bladder didn't help either. Downstairs Minato was sitting with his other 2 children, and Right was fighting the chill that was running down his spine. Narumi and Menma said that Naruto was never at the park with the other children. They didn't know where he went. Are you mad, Tu-chan? Narumi asked, breaking his train of thought. Yes, he was mad, but he didn't want his children to know. He quickly put a smile on his face and shook his head. No, I am not mad, Haim. He stood up and walked to the stairs, about to march up to his oldest room and demand answers. When he came to stairs, he met Kushina coming down the stairs slowly, as trying not to bounce as to not hurt the life inside her. Minato held out his hand to help support her. She gave him a small nod of appreciation as she came down. Where is Naruto? Minato asked in a neutral tone. Kushina looked at her husband with a raised eyebrow, curious over his tone, but answered him nonetheless. Upstairs. He fell asleep. Minato went to go past her but was caught by his wife by the shoulder. Minato then turned and glared at her, making her lean back for a second but then glare right back at him. What are you doing? She hissed. I just found out my son has been leaving his siblings alone in the park while he goes off on his own. I want to know why and where, Minato said. Kushina didn't let go of him. He is sleeping. The pregnant Kunoichi didn't relent. Her maternal instincts, telling, made her protect her child. I want to know where he goes. Minato snapped. Minato was frightened by the notion that his son was out and about by himself. Minato had no idea who his son was meeting, and if he wasn't with his siblings and other children, then where was he going? Who was he meeting? Who attacked his son? I want to know who did this. Minato, Kushina seethed as she tried to get him to lower his voice. Calm down, and lower your voice, she said in a hushed tone. Minato was in the process of stomping up the stairs, but quickly turned to stare down at his wife. What? Kushina gave a subtle nod towards the kitchen doorway where Minato saw his 2 other children. They were close to shedding tears again. Minato looked at them and then back at his wife, who just shook her head in disappointment as she went over her daughter and youngest son. All the fury Minato had built up was gone. All that was left was remorse for the way he acted and the way he talked to his wife. Then an idea dawned on him to help brighten his children's mood. He walked up to his 2 younger children and kneeled down to their level. Who wants ramen from Ichiraku? He said, smiling to the 2 children whose faces quickly brightened. His wife's face may not have been scowling anymore, but she was far from happy. The children nodded and were excited by the idea. Minato promised them he would be back with the delicious treat in a flash. Kushina then rallied the 2 children to get the table set, while every now and then, checking on her oldest, who went from napping to drawing intently in his book. What he was drawing, she did not know. Dinner went by with Naruto and Minato being the quietest of the family. Later that night, Namikaze Uzumaki house, Minato peeked his head into his oldest son's room and saw the boy had passed out with the pad and pen in his bed, and his lamp still on. Minato crept in and went to turn off the light. He then placed his hand on Naruto's head affectionately. Sorry, Naruto. He then turned and walked out. His next stop was Menma's bedroom, where he found the boy already tucked in. Minato smiled at how much alike he and his youngest. The significant difference was that Menma had picked up some bad habits from Jiraiya, but he was still a good kid. Then in Narumi's room, it took all his willpower to not laugh. She was sprawled out spread eagle, drool was running down her lip and cheek. Then there was the fact she was snoring loudly. He then came to his room. He had been dreading it since the argument. He crept in, and the lights were off. His years of training and being a shinobi was what helped him see the mound in the bed. He silently and carefully dressed down into a shirt and a pair of boxers, then slid into the bed with his wife. As he slid into their bed, he knew she was just pretending to be asleep. He softly whispered to her, "I'm sorry," while he could not see her face, which now had a soft smile on it, he did hear her say back, "I know." They slept that night peacefully, all their anger of today was gone and forgotten. Next day, front northern gate. In front of the northern gate, Minato, in his Hokage attire, was standing at the entrance. To his right was his wife, then followed by their children, Naruto first, Menma second, and Narumi last in line. On the left of him was his Hayashi Hyuga, clan head of the Hyuga, and Minato's lifelong friend stood glaring at the front gates. Minato stood as well then with a neutral expression on his face. They looked over to his friend. "I appreciate you housing them during the negotiations." Hayashi still stone-faced nodded. "It is our honor as a clan to house such honored guest," his voice showing little to no emotion. It was then down the road the welcoming party can see the ambassadors from Kumo walking up to the village. There were only 3 men, all tall, muscular, and olive-skinned like most from their native land. The ambassadors came to a stop in front of the gate to the village. One, in particular, came forward. He was like all the others except this man wore a pair of wire-rimmed glasses and cap that were similar to a scholar. He then bowed. The welcoming party did the same, all except Kushina, who glared and leaned towards her children, greeting Hokagedono. "You honor us with letting us into your village." His voice was regal, and he spoke with the utmost respect. Minato stood straight. "We thank you for coming." He forced a smile and then presented Hayashi to the Kumo, who stepped forward next to Minato. "This is the Hyuga clan head, Hyuga Hayashi." Hayashi bowed again. "He will be housing you for your stay in the village." Hayashi spoke with the authority of a clan head and said, "We are most honored to have you. The honor is mine, Honorable Hayagasama. I am Kenichi, and my associates are Rinji and Aki." The man smiled and bowed again. His subordinates did the same. Kenichi then looked over Minato's shoulder and saw his children. Kenichi then went to get close to them but was stopped when the pregnant Uzumaki Namikaze matriarch stepped in front of them. "Greetings, young Uzumaki Namikaze and matriarch. It is a pleasure to make your acquaintance." From behind their mother Naruto, Menma and Narumi were more apprehensive towards the strange man, especially when he gave them all a toothy smile. 13 years later, cottage. The unconscious form of Choji went skipping across the ground, then came to an eventual stop as he laid in the dirt. There were more unconscious bodies, including Kiba, Akamaru. Both were laying in the limbs of trees. Ino was at the bottom of the cliffs, holding onto the rocks below, so she didn't get taken by the waves. Shino was stuck in the ground half buried, and burn marks were all over his coat. Shino feared for his hive, leaving his only option to get into close combat. It was not a wise decision. Sai bore wounds on the stomach and face. While on the surface it was not life-threatening, it was the internal damage that was threatening. Already bruises were forming and the colors were a dark purple. Tenten was strung up in the forest with a multitude of weapons sticking out of her, while deep none were overly life-threatening if she was found within an hour. Niji was near the battle, stuck in a pile of lumber that was once the fence. Niji had used his body to take a blow that was meant for Tenten. Tenten then went to attack using her weapons but ended with her weapons being blown back at her. Kurenai was the least beaten out of the bunch. While she may be the jounin, she was not a combat expert. Her uniform was ruffled, her hair was a mess, but her body had no marks. Kurenai let her emotions get the best of her as she witnessed Kiba and Akamaru be beaten unconscious. Then as she watched Shino get buried in the ground by a flaming fist, she lost her control. She charged in, but like before, Naruto didn't lay a single hand on her that would do permanent damage. He was able to knock her with a strong punch to her head, but not enough to do any lasting harm to her. Naruto then did something unexpected. He dumped her unconscious form on the ground in front of Tsunade. Tsunade, who was still trying to heal Jiraiya and Kurenai as well. Tsunade felt helpless as she watched multiple people throw themselves at the warrior that they had come to plead with. She had come here hoping that maybe bloodshed could be avoided, but no. There was nothing but blood and bruises. Naruto was surrounded in a circle by Minato with his signature kunai out. Kakashi and Sasuke had their Sharingans out blazing at their adversary. Narumi has the sword in a ready position. Lee and Guy were in the Goken stance. Asuma had his twin blades out-coated in wind chakra. Lastly, Shikamaru was in a kneeling position, ready to use his clan jutsu for support. The ground, which was once green with grass and life, was now bare. Small fires decorate the ground, and craters were all over. Naruto was in a ready stance as well, his left fist balled out in front of him and his right arm back next to his ear. "What's wrong? You guys getting tired?" he mocked. While he may be a battle-hardened warrior, still taking on several high-ranking shinobi was taking a toll on him. He was able to deliver the damage, but the numbers against him were of quality. Minato stepped forward. "This has to stop." Minato then pointed out the damage done by the surrounding area. "Look at the damage done around here." He then pointed over to the wounded being tended to. "Look at what you have done to the others. Is this what you want? Is this what you want?" Naruto fired back. "You came to me, and you started this fight. Don't be pissed at me because I'm ending it." Kakashi called out, "Naruto, enough of this. We don't need to do this." He took a step towards the younger man, but stopped when he looked at the warning glare by his one-time ward. "You made your choice when you let that pervert attack my home," and the pale freak went running to find leverage. Naruto yelled back, "Narutonii, please, we won't hurt you." Narumi had tears rolling down her cheeks. She just wanted her family back together, and her oldest brother didn't seem to want that. She made a promise to her mother, herself, her little sister, and her father that she would bring the family back together. She may be shedding tears, but she made a promise, and Narumi never goes back on her word. "Just come home." "Like hell. I am not going back. You will have to drag me back broken and bloody first," Naruto countered. The decision was then made for Narumi, who wiped her eyes with her sleeve, and then she narrowed her eyes. Her resolve was set. "Then I know what have to do. Fine, then bring it. I am all fired up." Naruto kicked off the ground and went like a missile towards his sister, who went into a more rooted stance and shot out at him. Naruto reached his arm back, electricity sparking around it, and Narumi stabbed her sword forward. Narumi and Naruto clashed. Naruto slammed his fist down onto Narumi's sword. Naruto had coated his hand in metal as to not cut himself. They both locked in place, neither backing down. Naruto was physically more powerful than his sister, so as a counter, Narumi flowed chakra into her arms to help her gain more strength. Naruto was pushed back, but instead of having a worried look on his face, it was a manic look of excitement. Naruto then kicked Narumi in the stomach, sending her flying back. He then chased after her. Narumi straightened herself in midair and used her legs to stop herself. Deep drag marks go across the ground. Narumi charged forward again and started to swipe and slash her sword. She knew that her brother could take some punishment, but she was not aiming for a killing blow. Naruto dodged with precision and expertise. It was like he was dancing. He would sidestep, jump, roll, and fall to the ground, then springboard back up to dodge a low sweep. Then when Naruto would retaliate again, throwing combos with fire enhancement. Narumi would use her sword to parry the blows and redirect the power. Narumi then performed a lunge with her sword. Naruto then redirected her. He spun around her thrust, then pushed her in the back, causing her to lose control of her movement and fall to her knees. Naruto then brought an axe down, aiming for her head. Narumi raised her sword and blocked it. The strike made the bones in her arms rattle and pop in protest. She then tried to sweep Naruto's legs. Naruto jumped using her sword as a springboard. He used the jump to launch himself in the air. When he started to descend, he spun himself straight with flames beginning to build in his hand. Narumi noticed a shadow growing over her and looked behind to her brother, reaching his hand back, his fist encased in fire. Karyu no Tekken. Narumi blocked the strike with her sword, but the flames didn't stop. The fire continued and engulfed her. The fire blew her back, the sword escaped her hands and flew somewhere she didn't know. She started feeling the ground underneath her, causing her to skip like a rock. She felt the pain stop when two arms caught her. Sasuke stood by and watched as Narumi fought with her brother. Sasuke saw as the two siblings waged war on one another. It brought him back to memories of him and his own brother. When he saw the turning point in the battle go the way of Naruto, he acted. He grabbed her and appeared next to Tsunade. Narumi was now in his arms, and his Sharingan was active. He gently placed her on the grass-covered ground. Narumi looked up at her dark-haired savior. "Don't. This is my Fi." Whatever she was about to say died in her throat as a yelp of pain escaped when she tried to rise. Sasuke then looked back at her with his now crimson eyes and told her in the calmest and caring voice he could muster, "Let me help." All fight left her voice as her eyes teared up, and she began to let them silently fall. "He's coming home." Sasuke pulled out his sword as well and disappeared. Naruto felt the air around him change and leaned back as the sword passed over him and cut a few strands of his hair. Sasuke was okay with making Naruto bloody. He had not sentiments about his former teammate. Sasuke was not Narumi. He was going to help her bring her brother back, with a sword sticking through him, didn't bother him the least. Sasuke then started to slash with vigor and precision. Naruto was impressed by the ferocity that the Uchiha was showing. The strikes were not meant to kill, but they were meant to maim. Naruto went on the offensive. Wherever the sword went it would grind against iron. Naruto was using his ability, Tetsuryu no Yuroko, to block the sword. He was growing it where the blade would have made contact. With Naruto's perfect control over this ability, he could grow and then dissolve them back into his skin. That was precisely how he was using it now. Sasuke's eyes were picking up the trick that Naruto was doing and grinned at a plan he thought of in his head. Naruto coated his arm in metal, but it took the shape of a long double-edged sword. He brought it down on the Uchiha's sword Tetsuryuken. Sasuke let out a grunt as the massive sword came down hard. Sasuke's sword bent under the heavyweight. Naruto had a wicked grin on his face as he then stepped closer. The added weight of Naruto's body forced Sasuke down to one knee. Naruto was about to put the final bit of weight to break Sasuke's sword when his danger sense went off. Kakashi appears behind Naruto, a kunai in each hand. Kakashi was about to slash the warrior. Naruto ducked and then kicked the Jounin in the stomach to create space. Sasuke took this opportunity to parry the Naruto's blade and slide out from underneath him. Sasuke then went through hand signs Chidori. The Chidori was typically used for assassination, but Sasuke was not using it in the jab motion. Instead, Sasuke opened his hand and attempted to electrocute Naruto by just touching him. Sasuke hoped the voltage was enough to knock the midnight-haired man out. Naruto turned to confront Kakashi and threw a punch. Kakashi redirected the blow and trapped Naruto's wrist and went to pin him to the ground and hope his sensei would come and place a seal on him. When Kakashi went to pivot and take down Naruto, he found himself unable to move the team. Naruto hooked his foot around Kakashi's ankle, which made it impossible for the Jounin to throw him. Naruto reeled his arm back and smashed his fist in the side, making Kakashi groan and cough up blood. Kakashi fell to the ground like a puppet that was cut free of its strings. Naruto raised his leg to axe-kick Kakashi to put an end to the fight. Suddenly his acute hearing picked up the sounds of birds chirping. He turned and saw the outstretched hand of Sasuke about to grab his shoulder. Naruto had a surprise for the Uchiha, however, and he was excited to show him. Sasuke reached out his eyes, never leaving Naruto. He was within reach. It's over, he thought. When the hand made contact with Naruto, blue lightning danced across his body. Sasuke's then picked up something on Naruto's face. He had a wicked grin and looked to be unaffected by the electrocution. Naruto then inhaled a big breath. While doing that, all the electricity on his body and on Sasuke's hand traveled up into his mouth. Sasuke was at a loss for words. Thanks for the charge. Time to say bye-bye. Naruto sent an uppercut to the Uchiha's chin. Sasuke's eyes lost their focus. Quickly following up, Naruto grabbed him by the back of the shirt collar, spun and then with great strength threw him in the air. Naruto then used his newly absorbed lightning and molded it. Naruto made the lightning take the shape of a halberd. Naruto grinned and reeled his arm back, ready to launch the lightning-shaped halberd Raryu Hotenjiki. He whipped the lighting halberd forward. Naruto suddenly felt like his body was in an ocean as he felt his body tighten. The halberd left his hands, but the momentum wasn't there. The halberd missed Sasuke but hit the ground underneath him. The explosion caused the earth to rattle. The remnants of the blast hit Sasuke, causing him to let out a cry of pain as the backlash hit him, and he went flying into the trees. Kakashi saw his student get ricocheted into the trees. Sasuke, he called out as he went to make sure his student was okay. Naruto moved his hand to look at, and again he felt like he was moving underwater. He then looked down at the ground and noticed that his shadow was darker. Naruto then followed the shadow. And saw it lead to Shikamaru, who was kneeling performing his clan's jutsu. Always the sneaky, quiet tactician Shikamaru. Naruto looked over his shoulder and grinned. That's me. Always making plans and thinking of ways to get everyone out alive, Shikamaru said, struggling to hold Naruto in place. I always admired that about you. Always coming up with solutions to problems and keeping calm under pressure. Naruto started to move towards the kneeling team. It started off as a strained walk, then a jog and then finally a sprint. Here I come. Let's see if you can keep your cool. Shikamaru's concentration strained until it finally broke, followed by the jutsu. Now moving more freely, Naruto rushed the Nara, who tried again to connect their shadows to control the charging warrior. The shadow possession did little to slow him down. When Naruto was within 20 feet of Shikamaru, Asuma intervened, blocking Naruto's path with his twin trench knives glowing blue and humming. Naruto didn't stop. In fact, he gained a more excited look on his face. Naruto was going to charge right on through the Sarutobi when a foot connected to his face and yelled reached his ears Dynamiku and Tori. Naruto went flying through the air and crashed into the dirt. Naruto recovered, doing a back handspring to get to his feet. Naruto looked up and saw Guy standing in front of Asuma in the Goken ready stance ready to fight. Naruto let out a battle cry and charged the two older men. Naruto jumped in the air and charged flames to his feet. The two men braced themselves for whatever attack was coming their way. Naruto then brought his flaming foot down and wave of fire splashed out toward the two men Karyu no Kajizome. The two Jounin scattered from the attack site. The flaming kick blew dirt and blades of grass in the air from the force of the attack. Asuma and Guy shunshin in front of Shikamaru and looked towards the Nara for a plan. Shikamaru, we need a plan to bring him down fast. Got anything? Shikamaru didn't answer his sensei as he adopted his thinking pose. Shikamaru connects his fingertips and turns his hands upside down to make a shape. The Nara heir closed his eyes and began to devise a plan. Asuma groaned, and the then looked at Guy. All right, we stall until Shikamaru gets a plan together. You ready? Guy gave a thumbs up and good Guy smile. Yash. We will stop the youthful young man with the flames of youth. He then dashed forward and launched a powerful uppercut at Naruto's chin. Naruto leaned back and brought his leg up to kick the man in the jaw. The kick connected, and Naruto did a back handspring to get space. Asuma appeared behind Naruto and started to slash to him. Naruto didn't panic as he turned his limbs to metal. Naruto deflected by using his legs and kicking the blades to deflect them. Asuma wasn't deterred as he kept trying to subdue the younger man. Asuma did not see a way through Naruto's guard. Asuma thrust his fist forward, his blade sticks out at the bottom of his fist. Naruto didn't back down from the challenge as he reared his metal fist and made contact with the blade. Asuma's trained eyes saw an opportunity and acted on it. Asuma channeled more wind chakra into his knife, and to his luck, the knife cut through Naruto's scaled arm. The cut was massive and it had to take more than the regular amount of chakra and strength, but it still cut. Naruto let a cry of pain as he held his bloody arm. The scales from his arm were ripped and partially showing his arm, and blood ran down from his forearm to his metal-clad fingertips. Guy took the opportunity to attack the wounded, man. Guy went to kick Naruto's side. Guy may be eccentric, but he was a taijutsu master. To him, fighting was like a game of shogi, anticipating, and preparing for all situations that he could face. Guy saw the injury that Asuma gave to Naruto and made his move. Guy followed up and aimed for the damaged limb, Konoha Senpu. Guy yelled as he aimed his kick to Naruto's wounded arm. Naruto brought the damaged leg to block. The force behind the kick and weakened limb resulted in the vulnerable guard being destroyed. Guy followed up, with more attacks focusing on the wounded side. Naruto was able to slightly recover from the assault and guard against the barrage set upon him. Naruto blocked the best he could with his good arm, but it was futile. Guy blasted a heel kick in Naruto's stomach, sending him flying back. Naruto straightened himself out and then dug his feet into the ground to stop himself. Naruto then fell to his right knee. Guy's blow was enough to put some damage to Naruto's body, and Asuma's knives caught him by surprise. Naruto wouldn't let them land another blow. Naruto looked down at the injured arm and then clenched his fist a few times to experiment with the limb. He looked down at the ground, so the two jounin could not see the grin he had on his face. They were going to be in the dirt now. Guy was in his Goken stance, and Asuma had his trench knives in his hands vibrating from the infused chakra on the ends. They both looked and then nodded at each other, then both took off at Naruto, who was now still on his knee. Guy appeared above Naruto with his leg raised ready to bring it down on the younger man's head to stun him, and Asuma was behind Reed to pin Naruto down, aiming for non-vital points in his body and trap him. Suddenly their plan was destroyed and Naruto's steel-cladded hand made contact with the heel of the taijutsu specialist. The sound of a bell being rung echoes from the impact. Guy's large eyebrows subtly rose in shock. Guy was alarmed that the teen could counter him with that wound he was bearing. Asuma did not slow as he saw Naruto counter Guy's attack. Instead, he brought his knives down towards Naruto's back. It's over. At least Asuma thought as much. Naruto waited to the very last second and continued to stare at Guy as Asuma's blades came closer and closer to his back. Naruto knew what was coming towards him from behind. His battle sense and years of fighting helped know precisely what was happening behind him. Naruto concentrated his hearing at the humming that came from Asuma's trench knives. Naruto then gave a wicked grin towards Guy, who was still suspended in midair by the grip of the younger man. Guy, seeing the grin, became wary in a second. Guy then paled when he noticed Naruto's shoulder and arm begin to move. Asuma. Why? Naruto grabbed the arm of the Sarutobi, redirecting the arm's momentum. Naruto pulled Guy towards him and pulled down the striking arm of Asuma, so the knife ended in the leg of Guy directly in the man's calf. Asuma had the sense to weaken the flow of chakra in the trench knife as it entered Guy's flesh, but there was still enough to damage his fellow jounin's leg. When the nerves finally sent the message to the pain receptors in Guy's brain, he let out a cry of agony. Asuma let go of the knife, letting it stay in the man's leg as to not make the injury worse. Asuma quickly slashed with his second trench knife at Naruto, causing the man to back away and to create space between the three of them. This allowed Asuma to shunshin away with Guy in tow. Both jounin appeared some distance with Guy landing on one knee gripping his injured leg. Asuma looked down at his friend and then back at Naruto, who was grinning while putting his rotated the once injured arm by the shoulder. Not bad. You two are not as boring as I thought you would be. Naruto smiled at two as he brought his right arm back as a giant wall formed behind Naruto. Now let's keep the fun going, he yelled excitingly. Suddenly, Naruto twisted his arm and threw the blaze towards the two recovering jounin, Guren Bequenjin. Naruto shouted. Asuma and Guy looked in shock as the blaze came at them at lightning speed. Asuma made a grab for Guy to get them both out of the path of swirling blaze. Asuma took too long to get Guy to stand as the fire came too close for them to get away. The fire engulfed them, only showing shadows before the shadows disappeared. Naruto watched with a calculated glance as the fire consumed everything in the spot where two Jounin once stood. Naruto leaned back and watched as the soul of a blue ninja sandal passed by his face as it skimmed the tip of his nose. "You bastard!" Lee cried out as he charged at Naruto in blind rage and sorrow. Lee couldn't believe that Naruto just incinerated his beloved sensei. The man he idolized, the man he couldn't wait to make proud as he became a splendid ninja only using taijutsu. The man who believed in Lee when no one else did. That man was gone now. Because of Naruto. This person in front of him was no longer an old ally but an enemy. An enemy that needed to be put down. Lee's rage bloomed as he tried to kick Naruto in the chin to set up the Omote wrench. Naruto countered by sweeping the plant leg, causing him to fall. Lee then flipped trying to catch Naruto off guard by trying to hit him in the chin with the back of his heel. Naruto simply moved back again. Lee then did something drastic, he righted himself up and bent his knees into a squat. Lee put his hands up in a guard with forearms facing outwards. Naruto immediately knew what Lee was planning and acted. Lee was pushing chakra into the Hashiman. Lee's hair started to stand up, veins popped underneath the skin near his temple. His skin started to turn red, and his eyes lost their pupils. It would have lasted longer if Naruto didn't send a fist into the gut of the man. Lee's transformation stopped, and he fell to the ground. He looked up at Naruto with disdain and tears in his eyes. Naruto scoffed at the man below him. "What's with the look? You know what you did. You killed them. You killed him. You monster." Lee screamed out, making his voice hoarse. All the energy in his body was gone as he went limp like a marionette with its strings cut. Naruto kicked him in the side of the head for his outburst. Lee's head turned to the side from the blow. Even with him now dazed from the beating, he caught a sight that brought tears of joy to his eyes. Guy and Asuma were saved by the yondaime. The pain from trying to open the Hashiman and being interrupted kept Lee on the ground as he cheered with his remaining strength, giving a salute to Minato. "Thank you, Hokage-sama." Minato looked at his down shinobi that his son disabled. He gave a small smile and a nod for the younger man's thanks. Minato rescued the Jounin by throwing one of his famous kunai into the blaze before they were engulfed by the blaze that originated by his son. The two Jounin did not escape unscathed. Both had multiple ash marks on their faces and appendages where the clothing was burned away. Minato may not have been a trained Irionin, but from their injures, he could tell their lives were not in danger. Minato then looked at his estranged son. "Why did you do that?" Minato questioned as he started to slowly walk towards the black-haired man. "Look at what you did. You nearly killed two people. All we wanted was to talk." Minato yelled out, he was appalled. His son had nearly killed two people. Two people who were shinobi of his village. The Hokage in Minato called them soldiers or assets for the village that Naruto almost took from them. "You sure have a funny way of talking," Naruto growled out as he flexed his once injured. The fire then encased his fist and danced in his fist. Minato called out from the group, "We can still talk. All you have to do is stand down, and we can call all this off." He was pleading, he wanted all this to stop. All he wanted was to not cause his son pain. He wanted to embrace him, but he knew that was not going to happen. He was more likely to get a knife in the back than that. Naruto then gained a battle-hungry look on his face. "No way. This is too much fun to stop." Naruto was shaking from the excitement of the upcoming battle. "I always wanted to fight a Kage. There is no way I'm going to let this chance go to waste." The fire grew along with a desire to fight his father. Naruto's eyes widening, giving a mad look. "Don't disappoint me again, Hokage-sama," emphasizing his father's title to show his hatred and disdain for the man. He let out a battle cry and charged. "This isn't a game." Minato yelled out, he was disturbed at what his son had become. It was the look he knew that came from people who would not be deterred. Minato sighed and looked down, the thought of fighting his son was unappealing to him. As Minato looked up, he saw a ghost of the boy barely 10 years old running at with a big toothy grin on his face. Minato pulled out one of his Hiraishin kunai and ran forward. He may have moved with the quickness and proficiency of a Hokage, but he still moved. To Minato, each step felt weighted, his body and soul screaming at him not to stop this battle with his son. However, if this was the only course of action his son was reacting to, he would gladly meet his son's challenge. Even though he saw his son in front of him, the shinobi in him was facing a warrior. A warrior who challenged him. He would show his son how his father became a legend. Unknown to the duo, Shikamaru opened his eyes and with a calculated stare he looked as the father and son duo clashed. Time to see if this works. Off on the sidelines of the battle was Tsunade. She now had gotten to Guy and Asuma to treat them for their burns. Within the little makeshift field hospital was Narumi, tears streaming down his eyes, and she interlocked her hands in prayer, and lightly spoke, "Please. Please stop." She couldn't even look at the clash that was about to happen. 13 years ago, Uzumaki Namikaze's compound. It had been 3 days since the arrival of the Kyomo ambassadors. It was roughly some time past noon. In all that time, Naruto had rarely left his house. He barely left his room. He would sit on his bed, back against the headboard, knees tucked into his chest with the drawing pad leaning on his knees and draw in his sketch pad just like right now. Naruto didn't concentrate on what he was drawing. He just let his hand glide across the pages. The only thoughts that ever came to him were of his friend out in the forest surrounding the village. Naruto wondered how the large drake was doing. Naruto wanted to venture out and meet his friend, but he was afraid of the rage he might face. Meeting Cringeon was the constant of his everyday life, and now not seeing the dragon every day made Naruto feel out of balance. Naruto could have tried to spend time with his siblings and other children at the park, but Naruto just found it hard to like them. It wasn't like Naruto hated being with children his own age, but to him, other children were harder to relate to. They were more worried about playing and having fun than anything else. There was no push to do anything different, they never wanted to leave. The comfort of familiarity. To Naruto, that was just too plain and simple. Naruto felt a little selfish. He was lucky to have met such a fantastic being of unimaginable wisdom, and now he threw it all the way. Naruto hoped that no one else found Cringeon, out of fear of losing the chance to talk to him one more time. He loved to hear the stories of Cringeon's life, and he wanted to hear more, and the way he did so was by begging the creature for more tales. When Naruto watched the dragon breathe and make shapes with the smoke, it made the stories all the more exciting. Naruto let out a heavy sigh as he looked down at the pad at what he mindlessly drew. Naruto couldn't help but smile at what he drew. It was a sketch of Cringeon, just his head. The face was detailed, showing the layers of scales in his slitted eyes in a half-closed position looking to nearly go to sleep. Naruto continued to draw, adding the fangs that protruded from his lower jaw over the lips of his top jaw. Naruto added the horns and other fine details to capture his friend. A knock broke Naruto out of his drawing. He looked towards the door and told the person behind it, "Come in." The door opened slightly and the head of smiling face of his sister poked through the opening. "Hey, Anakin, want to come with Menmanii and me to the park?" Naruto almost let out a groan as he heard that phrase. The park was where they always went when they went out. Couldn't they do something else? Go for a walk? Go to the pond? Hell, he would even go visit his father in his office to change things up. "No thanks," Naruto politely declined. "Come on. You never go with us anymore." Narumi pouted, making her cheeks puff and her face round like a tomato just like her mother when she was a child. "Come on, Narumi. Everyone is waiting." Naruto heard the voice of his brother from what sounded like downstairs. Not without Narutonii. She was adamant about taking her older brother with her to park. He had been sad lately, and she was looking to cheer him up. "If he doesn't want to go, don't force him." Naruto would have to thank his brother later for his support, if he wants to stay inside all day like some hermit. Let him, Menma finished jabbing an insult at his brother. Naruto took his thanks back. Narumi looked at Naruto with a pleading look, begging him to come with them. When Naruto went back to drawing, Narumi nearly went over to him and ripped the pad out of his hands. She took one more step, so she was in the threshold of his room, thinking what her actions could cause. She then huffed, before stepping back out of the doorway before slamming the door. Naruto looked over at his door that slammed, and then he picked up the sounds of his sister stomping down the stairs through the walls. Downstairs Kushina was lying on the couch in the living room, humming a lullaby lightly, and she rubbed her stomach. She was nearly due, another 2 months, and another family member would be added. A kick from the child inside her agreed with the statement. She loved being pregnant, it reminded her of her time with her triplets. She just hoped the delivery was not as traumatic as the first. Tsunade told her it was only a single child this time around, which she was thankful for. The pain of birthing 3 children at once sucked. She couldn't wait to have a baby to spoil again. To her, being pregnant was not all that bad. Having her husband and children wait on her hand and foot was not bad either. She enjoyed the peace and quiet so much she didn't notice her youngest son comes down the stairs and then waiting by the front door. Her peace was interrupted when she heard her daughter upstairs. Kushina couldn't make out what she was saying, but she was obviously talking to her oldest brother. The second floor was connected to a flight of oak wood stairs that led to a landing where the children's 3 rooms could be seen from the first floor. The only room that was hidden was Minato and Kushina's room, as there was down a hallway on the far end of the house. Her peace was then broken when Menma shouted up the stairs to his sister and brother. She caught the insult sent to Naruto and was about to reprimand Menma when the slam of a door cut off that train of thought. The stomping on the stairs nearly sent Kushina on a tirade, but that was stopped when she saw her daughter's face. From her position on the couch, she saw her daughter was frowning. The usually beautiful, bright, smiling-faced little girl was frowning. Kushina was now up and heading to meet Narumi at the bottom of the stairs. Narumi rushed past both parent and brother as she quickly spouted out, "Come on, let's go." She went out the front door and left it open for her brother to follow. Menma looked up at the stairs. More accurately, he was staring at the door to his brother's room. Menma just shrugged his shoulders and went out the door, but not before whispering under his breath, "Damn Neeson, leaving me to fix this." Kushina caught it but didn't reprimand the boy for his choice of words. She was more concerned at what caused her daughter to leave in such a state. She groaned as she started the trek up the stairs, her swollen feet protesting as she made her way up. When Kushina made it to the top, she used the railing as support to catch her breath. She then walked to the landing using the banister as support to relieve the pressure on her ankles. She walked over to Naruto's room and lightly knocked. "Naruto-kun, I'm coming in." It was not a request, it was a statement. She walked in and saw her oldest in his usual position. It perplexed Kushina. Naruto was always the first one to leave the house and the last one to return. Lately, he barely left his room. Naruto turned his attention to his door again and saw his mother standing there with her arms crossed and tapping her foot. Naruto knew that look. It was the "you better start explaining" look. Naruto closed the pad as to not show his mother what he was drawing and then gave her his full attention. Naruto didn't want to really talk to his mother, from both his own miserable feelings and his sister pressuring him to go with his siblings to the park. "Well, I'm waiting," Kushina stated. "I didn't want to go to the stupid park with her," replied Naruto in a nasty tone. Naruto didn't mean to yell, but it was too late, it already came out. "You really upset your sister. She left here crying." Kushina fired back, disappointment laced her words. Kushina knew everything about her children, from the things they shared and to the things they didn't share. Kushina knew that Naruto was not one to be a follower. He always the first to walk. The first to talk, the first to run and the first to be independent. When they were toddlers, Naruto was the leader of the group. Wherever he went, his siblings would always follow. It was just like now, he was upset and his sister followed her brother. So now seeing Naruto in a state of depression and judging by the reaction and his tone, she knew something was bothering the boy. Kushina internally mused on how they were all so similar, but still retained their individuality. Narumi was physical and lashed out at Menma or Naruto. Menma was usually mouthy using words he learned from Jiraiya and Anko. Finally, Naruto would get quiet and reclusive, wanting to be left alone. Kushina walked over to Naruto's bed and sat down next to him. Kushina placed her back against the backboard. She then pulled Naruto close to her, resting his head in her collarbone area. She then started to lightly play with his hair, like she always did when she comforted him. Naruto leaned into her touch. I know you're still upset about your friend. Kushina then cupped his chin, so Naruto was looking up at her. That is no excuse for taking it out on your sister, Kushina said with a stern voice. Naruto pulled back away from Kushina's grasp, and then it all came out. I didn't take anything out on her. I don't want to go to the damn park. Naruto roared. All the pent-up emotions spilled out. Tears threatened to sting his eyes, his heart felt cold, and his body ached. Then looking up into the eyes of Kushina, he added something that would wound his mother. All I want is to be left alone. Kushina reeled back from the rant. She had never seen her usual calm, collective, and happy child scream and lash out like this. Kushina looked at Naruto with shock. Then the shock faded, and in its place was pity and contempt. Fine. She got up from the bed and started to slowly walk toward the bedroom door. I will leave you alone. You still owe your sister an apology. How you do it is up to you. She opened the door but stopped in the doorway, looking back at her son. Maybe you should fix things with that friend of yours. Your attitude was better back then. With that said, she closed the door firmly. Hokage Tower Council Chambers, thank you. We will relay the message to Rikagesima and see if he agrees to the terms. If we continue to discuss terms, Kenichi bowed towards both the Shinobi Council and Minato before leaving the room. For 10 seconds, all eyes were all on the door, and then shadows opened the door following the Kyumo representative. Minato looked at the clan heads that sat around a leaf insignia-shaped table. Judging from the expressions on their faces, they seemed to be satisfied with how things were going with Kyumo. Minato, however, would not let the promising negotiations go to his head. The Hokage in him was telling him to keep his eyes open and his ears listening. Minato swiveled in his seat and directed a question to the council. What are your thoughts? The first to answer was the head of the Inuzuka clan, Tsume Inuzuka. Tsume has an animalistic look. She has long, spiky, untamed brown hair, vertical slit-like pupils, elongated canine teeth, and nails. She also has the clan Fong markings on her cheeks as well as markings over her eyes and a dark shade of purple lipstick. She wears the standard outfit of a Konoha shinobi consisting of a flak jacket and a black suit underneath with the sleeves rolled up and bandages around her legs. Her response matched her demeanor. I say they can take their deal and shove it. After the shit they pulled years ago with Kushinachin, we should be taking an arm or a leg. Maybe even a head. Minato had to close his eyes and let out a long breath to calm himself. Tsume and his wife were old teammates from their genin days. Kushina looked at Tsume as a sister when she was younger. Surviving the destruction of Uzushiogakure made Kushina cling to the companionship that Tsume offered to her. When the two became teammates as later on as Kunoichi, they became inseparable. The fact that Kushina was so much like her didn't hurt either. Tsume-san, act like the position you hold, Hayashi told his fellow clan head. The two clan heads were opposites. If Tsume was a raging fire, Hayashi was the gentle rain. The prim and proper man could grasp how a woman with such an attitude could be the head of her clan. Hayashi then thought back to the rest of her clan. Do not tell me you forgot about what those bastards did, Tsume fired back. I have not forgotten the war, Tsume-san, Hayashi said. I'm talking when they tried to steal Kushinachin. Tsume growled out, Minato, please say something. These fuckers tried to kidnap your wife. The incident that Sum was talking about was years ago when most of the clan heads were children. A handful of Kumo shinobi infiltrated the village and tried to kidnap Kushina for her Uzumaki Kekkei Genkai and genes. Kushina had been rescued by Minato, who killed the shinobi. He had found her by following, as he put it, her beautiful red hair. Before Minato could even answer, another came from across from him. It was Fugaku Uchiha, another of his wife's ex-teammates spoke up, of course not. They are under constant observation for that reason. Correct Hokage-sama? Fugaku has short, brown hair that reached to his shoulders and onyx-colored eyes, with visible creases below them made more pronounced whenever he adopted a stern look, which was all the time. He wears a simple kimono with gray pants, which had the clan's symbol on the back, a white and red fan. Minato nodded, confirmed with the Uchiha head, yes, they are followed around the village by Umbu. When they reach the Hyuga compound, the Hyuga are then keeping tabs on them. Minato was not fond of how Fugaku insinuated the question, but he was thankful the man still cared about the safety of his wife. The old bond of teammates still ran strong with the trio. Thank Kami, at least some of you have the balls to take a stand. Sum smirked at her old teammate, who nodded towards her in agreement. That was when the Aburame clan head spoke. Sum-san, please control yourself. Why? Because you are not thinking logically about this. His monotone voice took the attention of the room. Shibi Aburame, like all members of his clan, has his eyes obscured by dark glasses, which feature a single tassel hanging down from one side. He has very spiky short black hair and a small pencil-thin mustache. He is wearing a high-collared outfit while carrying a gourd on his back that is used for holding more kikaichu. He also tends to keep his hands in his pockets most of the time. What's so logical about this I'm missing? Sum questioned again, snapping at yet another person in the room. If we so much as touch those Kumo ambassadors, war will start. If we are hostile, they will take it as a declaration of war. We need to tread carefully. Any hasted action could be trouble, Shibi stated. Sum sat back in her seat and contemplated the argument Shibi proposed. That was when the lead tactician and Jounin commander of Konoha spoke. Shiba-san makes a fair point. If those ambassadors think they are prisoners, it could lead to trouble. This was Shikaku Nara, the head of the Nara clan. The man whose knowledge was legendary throughout the elemental nations. The only person who could even come close to battling wits with the man was Minato. However, it wasn't a long battle. Shikaku had 2 scars on the right side of his face, which were probably his most noticeable feature. He has dark hair tied up into a spiky ponytail, dark eyes as well as a goatee. His ears were also pierced. Shikaku wears a meshed shirt underneath his flak jacket, a deerskin coat over that, and handguards. A grunt, along with a nod of approval, came from a mountain of a man in both height and girth. This Choza Akimichi was a tall, plump man with long, spiky red hair and purple markings on his cheeks, with the latter being a common trait in the Akimichi clan. He wears a samurai-like outfit, which entails a black suit completed with armor that has the kanji for food on it. He also wears a rope belt, handguards, and instead of a typical forehead protector on his hat a hachimaki tied around his head. He also wears a pair of silver, hooped earrings. This is the best and safest option at the moment. Right now, we play defensively. So don't go causing problems. Troublesome woman, Shikaku said in a lazy tone. The remark sent to Tsum sent the woman over the edge as she nearly flew over the table only to be grabbed by her vest's back collar by the Uchiha matriarch. He held her back as she flailed her limbs, trying some way to reach the lazy genius. Inoichi had long ash-blonde hair reaching into his lower back, which he wore spiky on top and ending in a long ponytail, light green eyes, and sharp facial features, which included a sharp jawline. In Part 1, Inoichi was seen wearing the standard flak jacket over a black outfit, complete with handguards, forehead protector, and a sleeveless red haori. He quickly interjected when he saw the rage in Tsum, what my friend means. Please just let cool minds win the day, he said while laughing. Inazukasama, sit down and control yourself. Right now, Minato commanded. His postures now displaying his displeasure and anger. Immediately all playfulness was gone from the room, and the council was not sitting attention. Minato rarely acted like this towards his former classmates since they knew him for so long, but right now, one of his council members were acting like children. While he did respect and loved Tsum, her attitude could cause an incident, and that could not be allowed. Everyone, I am saying this to you right now. Do not touch, go near, or even so much as breathe on these ambassadors with ill intent. I have taken precautions, and so has Hayashi. Nothing will happen to them if we are not provoked. Am I clear? Minato said sharply and radiating killing intent that made everyone stiffen and silent in their seats. Yes, Hokage-sama. They all shouted back in unison. Their leader looked at all of them in the eyes to see if his orders were taken to heart. Every shinobi in the room were now donning serious expressions and waiting for their next order. Alright, everyone is to be on alert in case there is of trouble. Everyone dismissed. The gathering of people in the room started to make their way out. The original Inoshikacho trio left in their own small group. The Aburame head left on his own, while Tsum and Fugaku left together in conversation. That left only 2 people in the room. Minato stared out across at his oldest friend and ex-teammate. Minato had relied on Hayashi as the advisor to the Hokage ever since the night of the Kyuubi escaped Kushina, and Hiruzen died. When Minato, Hayashi, and Mikoto Uchiha were all on the same team with Jiraiya being their sensei. Just Kushina and her ex-teammates, his team still had that everlasting bond. Am I doing the right thing? Minato asked Hayashi. Hayashi kept his impassive usual stony expression for a second, but quickly it was replaced with a genuine smile, and then a chuckle escaped his lips. My friend, you know what you did was right. You can't have someone like Tsum going off and starting a war. It wouldn't be fair to the other side. Minato smiled at the joke at Tsum's expense. Hayashi always came off cold and distant to most, especially since his wife passed giving birth to his second daughter less than 8 months ago. Even during her funeral, he remained stoic and impassive. However, that changed when he came stumbling into Minato's office in his home and then broke down into tears. Kushina had come in and comforted the man along with Minato. No, I'm talking about letting you house them. Hayashi's face grew neutral. I know what I was doing when I offered, Hayashi replied, feeling slightly insulted by the question. He agreed to do this as a favor to Minato. He did it for the betterment of Konoha, and most importantly, for the honor of the Hyuga clan. The Hyuga elders wanted to have a personal favor with Kumo if the negotiation went well. Okay, I was just making sure. I am thinking of your daughters, Minato replied. He knew Hayashi was doing this to gain favor with Kumo and a higher standing in Konoha. As Hokage, he had control over the common shinobi within his command, but the Hokage had little no sway when it came to clan affairs. Minato figured that Hayashi was being pressured by the elders to take the offer before the Uchiha clan did. Don't worry, they are under guard, and we have the Kumo ambassadors under surveillance, Hayashi stated, ending the Hokage's worries as Minato relaxed in his seat. Hayashi got up from his chair and made his way towards the door. You worry too much, sometimes Minato. Go home to your wife and children. Minato smiled at the man before standing up himself and making his way towards the door. You make too much sense sometimes Hayashi, someone has to keep you in check when Kushina-sama is not around. They both shared a laugh. Park Narumi and Menma were nearly at the park, but the whole way Menma stayed out of arm's reach of his sister as she was beyond mad. When Narumi got made, she would take it out on the nearest object. On more than one occasion, that object was Menma. Menma learned to fear his sister really quick when she was mad. Right now, she was letting her frustration out on a rock that she kicked on her way to the park. Stupid, Bakaniai, she whispered under her breath every time the rock was impacted by her shoe-covered foot. That was when Menma said to his sister, at a safe distance, Naramani calm down, you can't force him to come. Narumi shot a glare at her brother that caused him to walk slightly further away. I know that, but he didn't have to be a jerk about staying home. Menma put his hands behind his head, interlocked them, and continued to look at his sister. He will come around. Naisama always does, he smiled at her. Narumi turned her head towards her brother and then back towards the small rock she was kicking. She cocked her leg back and kicked with everything she had, sending it flying. Better? Menma asked. Much better, she said with a smile finally on her face. Her brother always spoke with reason. Finally, the park came into view, and then Menma set his arms back down and sprinted past his sister. Race you. Laughter followed the statement, and quickly Narumi followed after her brother. The duo made it to the park with Menma beating his sister. Narumi and Menma were waiting for them were all their friends and fellow clan heirs. Shikamaru and Choji were sitting under a tree, enjoying the peace and quiet. Hinata was crouched next to Shino, watching as the boy was telling her about a centipede. Kiba was on the playset hanging from a set of bars upside down with a little white dog barking at him from the ground below. Sasuke was sitting on the bench by himself, but that quickly changed when Narumi and Menma entered the park, prompting him to immediately get to his feet. Finally, the last of their friends was Ino, and she was standing next to a pink-haired girl with a red ribbon that held her hair up. Hearing the two siblings laugh and chasing each other made all the young clan heirs come to greet them. It was at this point every clan heir except Ino stared at the pink-haired girl. The newcomer to the group blushed, making her face match her hair, and suddenly found her sandals very interesting. Menma finally broke the ice. Who's she? Ino then bumped herself on her head, completely forgetting her manners. Oh. So stupid of me. Ino then grabbed the shy girl's hand and dragging her forward towards the group and presenting her to them. Everyone, this is Haruno Sakura. A new friend I made. I invited her to come to play. The newly identified Sakura finally looked up and found everyone staring at her, making the girl fidget in her spot. Narumi immediately came over and hugged the new girl. Hi, nice to meet you. I'm Uzumaki Namikaze. Narumi, I know. She looked over to all the children that had gathered around her. I know who all of you are. Sakura was highly intelligent for her age, and she loved to learn. Her parents were ordinary civilians, but what she didn't have in blood she made up for in brains and her desire for knowledge. Suddenly Sakura was made eye contact with Menma, who hung in the back of the group chatting with Hinata. Menma, however, notices the slight blush that crept on her face. Menma was not a Casanova by any means but was not thickhead like Naruto. Sakura then had a strike of realization that made her eyes widen. Then she walked up to Menma. Menma looked at the girl when she was first introduced, and to be honest, he was beyond uninterested. So he just was doing what he thought was polite and ignored her while talking to Sasuke. So it came as a surprise when she came up to him and then started to stare shyly at him. Menma was about to ask her to back off when she said something interesting. How come Naruto doesn't look like you? Menma snapped his head towards the newest addition to the group. This girl met his brother. What the hell is that supposed to mean? Menma questioned. This girl was trekking on thin ice. Menma had already had an idea to have Narumi deal with the girl. Then he remembered that his sister took a liking to the girl. Your hair is different than his, and he doesn't have the marks on his cheeks. Why is that? Sakura asked in curiosity. How should I know? Menma barked back, not liking his personal space being invaded by the stranger. Is he with you? Sakura asked. Suddenly Menma looked away, and Narumi's mood soured with her pouting and looking away. Sakura, seeing she made a poor choice of words, decided to lower her head again. All the other clan heirs looked between the three, trying to comprehend what caused the change in mood. The clan heirs then thought about Sakura's question and then looked around for Naruto. The two siblings said they would bring him this time around. From what they had to guess, they failed again. That changed when Narumi then grabbed Sakura by her side and pulled her into the group. Come on, race you to the swings. This caused everyone to laugh and then chase after her. They would have fun today. Clearing Kryingen looked to see the sun was now behind the far side of the clearing, and the sky was a warm orange as the day was coming to an end. All day, he kept looking over at the tree line where his friend would go through and bring him a fish or start blabbing about his day. For 3 days, he had not seen his friend. Kryingen gave his version of a sigh which involved smoke blowing out his nostrils. The sound of movement in the undergrowth caught his attention. He looked towards the direction of the clearing. It was coming from the direction Naruto would usually come trouncing through. To his disappointment, all that came was a deer. It looked at the giant reptile, and out of bolted back in the woods. Kryingen looked away and sighed. What was he thinking? It would be about the time he would be going home now. Kryingen just sat and basked in the energy the sun gave him. He missed the meals that Naruto and he shared, he missed food too. He may not need anything to eat to survive, but energy could never replace the succulent taste of fish and meat. Kryingen wanted to apologize to the boy and explain his outrage was not directed at the boy, but at the situation he found himself. Kryingen knew he was not in his world anymore. In a new world with no way to get home. The sun disappeared behind the tree line, and darkness consumed the clearing, making the dragon cover himself to fall asleep. Hyuga compound night had finally fallen, and inside the Hyuga compound, 3 men were preparing to fulfill a mission. All preparations are nearly completed. Once it goes quiet, we take the Hyuga girl. You two will hold off any resistance while I escape and deliver the girl, Kenichi said to his 2 subordinates. Instead of wearing robes, they were now wearing Kumo shinobi gear of a long, gray top, which gathers just at the waist to give a sash-like appearance, with a matching colored bottom. Over this, they are wearing white, one-strapped flak jackets and arm as well as shin guards. Kenichi tied his headband on his head tightly, looking for a response from his 2 teammates on this mission. Kenichi couldn't help but smirk at the current predicament they were in. The current Raikage had given them a mission that could change the power balance in the elemental nations. And his council tasked them with taking a Hyuga back to Kumo. The council preferred a female that was close or at breeding age, but Kenichi was going off the reservation on this mission. Kenichi was a man of deep ambition, he was looking to move up the chain of political power. He wanted to make a big splash, and making big splashes included taking a clan heir as a prisoner. If he could bring them the Hyuga princess, he figured he would be rewarded with being the graces of the Raikage's council. He felt his heart raced in anticipation. His 2 subordinates nodded and then tied their headbands on tightly. All right, let's move out. Kenichi charged out the door to their room. One of the subordinates immediately threw a kunai at a startled Hyuga who was guarding the entrance. The kunai embedded into the man's chest, killing him. Swiftly they made their way towards the target using the shadow of the night as cover. They quickly found an unoccupied room where they snuck in through a window. As they made their way through the home, they quickly found where their target was. They opened the slowly and found the prize of the night sleeping, dead to the world. Kenichi nodded to one of his teammates. From one of the pouches on their back, they took out a syringe. Kenichi stayed guard at the door as his ally did his assignment. Hinata Hyuga was their target, and as she slept, she was utterly unaware of what was about to take place. As she slept, her chest would rise and fall with every breath. Then the syringe entered her neck and plunged the liquid into the 7-year-old's body. Later the breathing became slower and steady. Kenichi smiled, seeing that the drug did its work. Satisfied with results, one of the Kumo shinobi quickly picked the girl up while the other one held open a bag to place the drugged girl in. Kenichi took the bag and swung it over his shoulder. The smiles on their faces held only malice and greed. Swiftly they made it outside into the compound. They halted when they became surrounded by both Konoha Umbu and a very angry Hayashi with his twin brother, Hizashi, standing next to him, both Byakugan flaring. Hayashi stood forward, and in words laced in rage, he spoke, "You will put my daughter down and surrender. If you do so, I may kill you quickly." He then got into a Juken stance, ready to go for the kill. The two other Kyumo shinobi were eyeing the group that surrounded them, slightly nervous and not liking the odds. Kenichi, however, was not intimidated in the least. "Oh, I don't think so," he then pulls out a kunai and swings the bag, so he was letting it hang in front of him. Kenichi placed it so that the point stuck into the bag. This halted the advance of Konoha shinobi and caused Hayashi to grit his teeth. "You won't be taking another step. Not if you don't care what happens to your daughter." Kenichi smiled manically. He was now a cornered man with nothing to lose and everything to gain. He would not be stopped by a threat of a father. Suddenly one of the other Kyumo shinobi flashed through hand signs, then extends both arms, releasing a high discharge through both palms, and shouted, "Raitun, Sandaburto." The two balls of electricity rushed towards Hayashi, breaking apart the ground it glided above. Hayashi was not intimidated in the least as he suddenly started to spin, and a bubble of chakra started to form. Hayashi then shouted, "Kaiten." Kaiten was the ultimate shield of the Hyuga clan, and it proved its worth right now. The electrical blast hit dead on with the swirling shield. An explosion resonated through the area, causing smoke to fill the space. Hayashi continued to spin, and then the smoke funneled into the sky, dispersing. When the smoke finally cleared, all the Kyumo shinobi were gone. "Damn it. Hizashi. Do you still see them?" Hizashi still had his Byakugan flaring, confirmed his brother's question. "Yes, I see them." When a Hyuga uses the Byakugan, they see the world in 364 degrees. They could see miles outwards, depending on the strength of it, from their position. Hizashi saw the men going towards the southern gate. Suddenly 3 became 15, Kage Bunshin, dread filled his body, making him slightly number. "Naisama, there are now 15 of them." "Damned, Kage Bunshin!" Hayashi yelled out. He then looked at his men and the Umbu, "Divide and conquer men. We have 5 groups of 3. Go and get them. Retrieve my daughter." There was a unison of, "Hi," and they disappeared except for a dog-masked Umbu. "Kakashi, go inform Minato." Again another hi was said. Then the hunt began for the Hyuga heiress. Hokage Tower Minato was sitting in his office doing the last of paperwork before heading home for the night when suddenly a dog masked wearing Umbu landed in front of him. Hokage-sama, the Kyumo ambassadors, made their move. Hayashi is uninjured, but they have made an escape. Minato jumped from his seat at attention, then looked out towards the village directly at the direction of the Hyuga compound. "Shit." Then he turned to the dog-masked Umbu. "Kakashi, tell Kushina to lock down the compound and stay with them until I return." Minato was in full Hokage mode and father mode. "Kyumo would pay for this, and I will paying in spades for this act of aggression." "Hi." Kakashi disappeared into a smoking shunshin. Minato then disappeared using his Hiration, going to find his friend. Uzumaki Namikaze's compound. Kushina was already prepping for battle. Her prized Shinku no Shio firmly in her hand. She didn't give a damn if 3, 10, or even 100 Kyumo shinobi burst through the door. She didn't care that couldn't use her chakra at her fullest, and she didn't care if they were here for her. She would stand her ground and protect her children, all 4 of them. She had told both Narumi and Menma to go to their rooms and wait for her or their father to come for them. Kushina felt a presence at the other side of the door, and she readied herself to defend her home, her sword raised so the cutting edge was face up and the pommel was next to her cheek. As the door slowly opened, she got into a ready stance. Then a face popped through the opening of the door. She attacked. She let out a battle cry and slashed, only to find a dog mask looking at her and hands waving as a poor excuse of a defense. "Kushina-sama, stop. I come in peace," the voice of a teenager answered her. "Kakashi-kun. What are you doing here? I almost killed you." Kushina asked, then reprimanded the young Umbu for not being on constant guard. If a pregnant charcoalous woman managed to hurt him, he would be the laughing stock of the Umbu. "To protect you?" Kakashi asked in a questioning tone, seeing his sensei's wife battle-ready in her state scared him. Kushina burst out laughing, insulted by the thought that this boy was her protector. "Let me guess. Minato asked you to guard the children and me?" Kakashi nodded slowly, she then laughed again at the teen's expense. Kakashi gained several tick marks from the abuse but knew better than to say anything to the woman. When Kushina finally stopped, she wiped a tear. Okay, you can guard the place. I am going to go check on the children, Kakashi nodded, drawing his tanto and disappearing into a hiding place. It took Kushina a solid minute to get up the stairs. She shuffled over to the door of Narumi but found it empty. Narumi's room was set up the same way as Naruto's, but the difference was the walls were painted yellow and on the walls on display rack were many dulled weapons such as kunai, shrunken, and one katana that held the same dimensions as Kushina's blade. Kushina closed the door and then entered Menma's. Menma's room was painted a deep red and was set up similar to the other two except his had an abundance of books on seals and practice scroll littered the floor. Inside on the bed was Menma comforting a scared Narumi who was digging her face into his chest. Kushina quickly came to her children's side, comforting them by cradling them into her stomach. She did her usual comfort of massaging their scalp and playing with their hair while shushing the children. Hey now. It's okay. Nothing bad is going to happen. Chu-chan will take care of it. That brought the attention towards her. If not, then I will take care of them. Kushina gave a face-splitting grin causing her two children to laugh. No one can stand a chance against you, Kachin. Narumi said, always having the most faith in her parents and wanting to be just like them. No one would be stupid enough to try, Menma answered. Kushina being satisfied that the two were now no longer shaken. Let's go get Naruto. I want you all together. Kushina stood up and instructing the 2/3 of the triplets to follow made it Naruto's room. Kushina's heart immediately filled with dread and panic. Naruto was nowhere to be found. Kakashi, panic instantly ensued. The distraught mother felt the same fear she did all those years ago when Naruto went on his own adventure again. Forest outside village, the three men had gotten away and were now catching their breath in a small clearing. They had managed to escape thanks to the diversion of the clones. They sent all the clones to all the north, east, south, and west gates while the real ones went for the wall of the village. They quickly got up and over, but not without setting off the security seals alerting Konoha where they made their exit. Kenichi had handed the sack to one of the others. The damn kid was heavy. He looked up at the stars with a smile. His mission was almost complete, and his seat at the table was looking all the more plausible. He quickly got up and whispered to his team, "All right boys, let's head on home." The team jumped up into the trees and then across the tree branches. They were moving so fast only a Jounin-level shinobi would be able to see them as they went by. Suddenly Kenichi noticed something out in the woods that didn't belong there. He halted at one of the branches, which then made the others stop, seeing the object of his interest coming towards him and his group. Kenichi grinned like a madman seeing how his luck just go better. No fucking way. Naruto had left the house doing as his mother's suggestion. Maybe you should fix things with that friend of yours. Your attitude was better back then. Her advice bounced around in his head for hours. He finally worked up the nerve to leave the house. He probably should have told his mother he was leaving. Then again, he didn't want another lecture. He would apologize to his sister, but maybe tomorrow. He would go to the park with them as an apology. Right now, he had another person to apologize to. Naruto had his hands in the pockets of his shorts, and his head was down. Naruto felt his whole body ache and an ever-present chill up his spine. He was nervous beyond all meaning of the word. I hope he is not angry anymore. He made his way towards the clearing ever so slowly he had been avoiding for the past 4 days. Naruto's thoughts were interrupted when he felt the ground shake. He quickly looked around, not seeing anything at first. Naruto was starting to think that his idea of coming out in the forest at night was a bad idea. Naruto backed up slowly, already planning the route home in his head. His back came into contact with something that was not a tree or bush, causing the object to chuckle. What are doing out here, Naruto-sama? Naruto whipped around and saw the Kumo ambassador smiling down at him with an all-too-friendly smile. Naruto remembered how his mother was very cautious of the men from Kumo and how she was not very trusting of them. He had to agree his mother had the right idea, seeing the creepy smile again the man displayed on his face. Naruto didn't respond, but then started to back up again, but another ambassador blocked him. Naruto began to run in another direction, but the third one blocked his path like the others. Then they started to close in on him. Why don't we escort you home? The most basic of human instincts is fight or flight. The primal instinct that caused many species to live and others to die. Right now, flight was the instinct coursing through him, trying to save the boy. Naruto bolted, pushing his way through the men, who were taken by surprise at the child's strength. Naruto ran into the darkness in an unknown direction. Don't just fucking sit there. Grab him. Kenichi shouted at one of his subordinates went chasing after the boy. He couldn't believe how fast the kid was. Well, it didn't matter to him, the kid was not going to get away. Kenichi still couldn't believe his luck. Not only did he get the Hyuga princess. He also stumbled upon the oldest child of the Hokage, who had the blood of an Uzumaki. Forget council seat, he was going to be the next Raikage. He then looked at his other compatriot and gave the order, let's go. Our meal ticket is getting away. Kenichi dashed after the two. Naruto ran as fast as his small legs would take him. His lungs burned from the constant inhaling and exhaling. He only felt this kind of fear back when Cringeon went into his rage. He looked over his shoulder, seeing no one following him. He took this chance to hide behind a tree to catch his breath. Naruto peeked his head out to see if he was still being followed. Satisfied that the coast was clear, he began to make his way in the direction of the village. He just hoped he could sneak back in without his parents noticing. Naruto walked briskly, making his way into a less dense thicket. Before he could comprehend what was happening, Naruto was suddenly dragged across the dirt and grass of the forest floor. Naruto felt his face become hot and sticky. Naruto let out a scream as the pain registered. Naruto felt a palm on the back of his head was pinning him to the ground, along with a knee in the center of his back, making him immobile. A gruff voice caught his attention. Easy kid, it will be over soon. Now the fight instinct kicked in, and Naruto, like a wild stallion, was struggling for dear life. The Kumo shinobi, while shocked by the fight the small child put up, stayed on the child's back. Seeing that struggling was not helping his situation, Naruto started to scream at the top of his lungs, someone help. The Kumo jounin felt his blood chill. Naruto had a set of lungs on him. He quickly put his hand on the kid's mouth to silence him. Shut up, you damn gaki, he shushed the boy. That proved to be a mistake as Naruto took a bite of the man's hand. Fucking shit. He then slammed the boy's head into the ground, causing the kid to be momentarily silent. Naruto's vision became blurry because of the blow to the head. He heard nothing besides a high-pitched whistle. His eyelids felt heavy, he wanted to sleep. Adrenaline entered his body when he felt the weight leave his body. The Kumo shinobi got off the kid to tend to his hand that bite marks on his pointer and middle fingers that were slightly bleeding. A sharp pain in balls caused him to forget the pain in his hand. The little shit planted his foot in his balls. This caused the shinobi to let out a yell himself and fall to his knees as he watched the boy run. Red was the only thing he saw when he put his hands in the sign of the snake and felt lightning enter his throat. He took aim and fired the jutsu, Raitun, John. A bolt of lightning shot out of his mouth. Help. Naruto cried out as he ran, his voice echoing into the night, someone. Anyone. His little legs nearly gave out as stumbled. Please. Save them. He heard the sound of thunder, and then a sharp pain caused him to tumble to the ground as lightning ripped through his body. Naruto felt nothing, he was completely numb. He felt more exhausted than before. He touched his chest and felt his shirt had a hole in it and in his chest. His mother was going to be pissed. Naruto turned himself over, so he was looking up at the sky. It was a beautiful night. He remembered one of the stories Cringeon told him about the stars. The stars were where the spirit goes to look down at loved ones as they slept. They guarded them at night and hid by day. Naruto figured that he would be looking down on his mother, father, brother, and sister soon. He just regretted he was not able to apologize. He failed to apologize to not only his sister but to his mother, his brother, and especially Cringeon. He smiled as he started to cry, blood mixing with tears. Clearing Cringeon may have been asleep, but he was well aware of the three energies that were present near him. He caught their scent with ease as they reeked out sweat. He already had himself looking like a rock, and at night, he would not be looked at twice, so he was not worried. Then a faint echo of a voice on the wind was heard, "Help." The voice was shallow, almost non-existent. Cringeon's eyes shot open, turning into slits. The voice was familiar, someone. Anyone, it was Naruto, and he was in trouble. He had to be if he was calling out for help. Cringeon stood up and was about to go to him when the pain of the damaged wing stopped him. "Please. Save em." Then a sound of thunder echoed over the words. Cringeon wanted to go again but was stopped by the trapped wing. Cringeon waited and listened for another plea for help, but heard nothing came. Cringeon made a decision. He used his keen hearing to pinpoint the direction it was coming from. He made his decision. Cringeon jerked quickly away from his trapped wing. Forest as the other Kyumo shinobi was trying to choke back down his balls, Kenichi and the other false ambassador landed next to him. "Where's the kid?" What was the thunder boom, looking around and not seeing the boy with him. "Where's the kid?" The Kyumo shinobi pointed in the direction as saw the result of the thunder. He heard the black-haired boy was lying face up in the dirt bleeding out. Kenichi gritted his teeth, seeing that the boy was dying or already dead, and there was nothing they could do save him. "Fuck. You stupid fucking imbecile. Do you know what you've done?" When the Kyumo shinobi didn't answer, Kenichi grabbed him by the collar and got into his face. "You just started a war. Taking him as a hostage prevented that, and we had leverage. Pointing over to the soon-to-be corpse, now we have nothing, and Kyumo might hand us over to Konoha on principle. We are dead no matter what we do. You stupid son of a bi." Suddenly they felt the ground shake and heard the sound of wood splintering. They turned in the direction of the noise. Then the Kyumo shinobi noticed the noise getting closer and closer with each passing second. Suddenly bursting through the tree line was something no one identified. Fear crept into their hearts as the Kyumo ninja carrying the sack with the Hyuga princess dropped it unnoticed. The odd part was Kenichi could have sworn the beast was looking for something. Cringeon looked around the small thicket until he noticed the body of a small figure. He quickly smelt the air and picked up three distinct scents: a female child, blood, and Naruto's. The one feminine scent was coming from a bag that the three men had. The other two were coming from the opposite side of the thicket. Cringeon realized they were coming from the small downed figure. Instantly he snapped in the direction of the three men. "You will pay for what you've done." Cringeon then let out a mighty roar that echoed across the. Kenichi took a step back, startled that the beast showed such intelligence to make words. Kenichi and his subordinates instantly felt the hair on the back of their necks stand on end. The air in the area felt heavy like it became pressure, and they broke out into a cold sweat. What they were feeling was the creature-killing intent. Kenichi could only remember one time where he felt something similar, and that was when the Hachibi was angry. This beast was not a bijou, but it's similar, and they pissed it off. Konoha search party Minato, Hayashi, and Hizashi were leading the hunting party along with a hunting party that included both Hyuga clan members and Umbu. They were following the trail left behind by the real trio. The Hyugas were kicking themselves for being tricked by a simple diversion tactic. Hayashi started to worry, and the stone mask he made for himself was cracking. Minato, seeing that his friend was beginning to worry, went to give some calming words. Suddenly they were met by the sound of a roar from a tremendous animal assault their ears. Then, as if hit by a wave, they all felt a presence that made every shinobi have flashbacks to the night of the Kyubi incident. Minato himself instantly pulled out his Hiraishin kunai and entered a defensive stance, the twin Hyuga taking a Juken stance. Neither of them moved. They stood still waiting for the thing that made that noise to show itself. Minato, do you know what that was? Hisashi asked. Minato knew something similar to this killing intent, but that was not possible. The Kyubi no Yoko was still sealed in Naruto Menma, so Minato was thinking of all other possibilities it could and was coming up with nothing. I don't know. But whatever it is, we are not equipped to handle it. Thicket Cringeon charged, running at the trio of men. Two scattered right away, but one, paralyzed with fear, was trampled, being crushed into a pile of bloody slime under the strength of his claws. Cringeon then stood over the bag that contained the female scent in a defensive position. Then one of the men threw kunai at him, but his scales would not be penetrated by the iron knives. Cringeon snapped his mighty jaws around the man, causing him to scream. Cringeon then shook his head and continued to chop the man, killing him. He then spits the man out across the thicket where his body rolled in the dirt and leaves. He would not soil his stomach with a man such as this. Raitun, Kanden Haribari. Kenichi shouted out as a volley of small lightning needles rained down on the monster. Kenichi landed, looking cautiously at the electric field he caused. To his astonishment, suddenly, the lightning started to fade and was being drawn into the monster's mouth. It was eating his jutsu like it little more than a snack. Kenichi fell back onto his rear as he stared at the might beast, whose steps caused the ground to shake with every step. The creature stood proud over him, its shadow blocking the sole light source of the moon. Kenichi knew his end was here. There was no hope, but one last attempt would not hurt. Please spare me. Cringeon looked at the human in front of him. The attack the human had produced was interesting, but it was like a mosquito trying to do damage against him. The energy was similar to magic. It was called Churka, if he recalled correct. He was able to absorb the energy like normal. Cringeon would contemplate later. Right now, he had justice to deliver. Cringeon heard the plea of the man, but all that did was anger him more. You killed a boy I called friend. There is no mercy to be found here. Opened his maw, and fire started to erupt from his throat. Kenichi had tears in his eyes as the great monster of death was about to end his life. Kenichi saw his life flash before his eyes and the hopes of his future gone. Suddenly the beast let out a torrent of fire that rushed towards him. Kenichi would have screamed, but the air itself was like fire, burning his lungs. When the fire consumed, he didn't feel hot. He actually felt cold and then nothing at all. Cringeon stopped his fire breath and looked at the blackened ashes that were once the murderer of his friend. Cringeon scanned the area, seeing no threats left to him, the girl in the sack, and to Naruto's body. He snorted out some smoke from nostrils and then let out a groan. Cringeon was in an immeasurable amount of pain from severing his wing. The wing joint was now a bloody stump continuously bleeding. Cringeon would worry about his pain later. Right now, he had to pay his respect to his fallen friend. Cringeon walked over to the still form of Naruto. The boy was bloody, a gash across his head and the hole in his chest. The boy's eyes had dulled, and the usual shine was gone. Cringeon regretted looking at the boy as his heart ached even more. Cringeon nudged the boy with his snout, hoping for a response. He got no response. The dam burst as tears started to stream down to the ground. The tears were the size of basketballs as they left his eyes and splashed on the ground. Cringeon felt many emotions rack over his body: anger, sadness, and, most importantly, regret. He would never get to apologize for lashing out and causing Naruto an injury. He would never get to explain his actions were because he was stuck in a different dimension with no way home. As a tear slowly moved, danced down his maw and then fell on the boy. The sudden splash of water on the body caused a groan to come from the body. Cringeon, startled by the action, concentrated his hearing solely on the boy in front of him. Everything around him was silenced, all his senses focused in front of him. Cringeon waited for what felt like forever, then he heard the sound of a weak heartbeat. Cringeon's heart nearly jumped out of his chest as he started to think of options to help the boy. The boy's body was still alive, but for how long he did not know. He could not go to the village in time to help him, and he would need to drop off the other child as well. Flying was no longer an option. There were no options, and if he didn't act quickly, the boy would be dead for sure. Kryngin was left with only one option and he didn't know if it would work. Naruto's heart started to slow even more. Kryngin made another difficult decision, and it would be one he would never come to regret. Kryngin channeled all the magic in his body, and in the ancient language of his species reciting the incantation, Dragon's Code, Dragon's Honor, I do this blessing. Dragon's Pride, Dragon, both I enact the rite of kindling. I make this promise, I will make the power is not used amiss. From kin to kin, I make a vow, an oath to a flame that will not bow. In his needed hour, I give him my power. Kryngin then opened his jaws and breathed out a beam of golden light that enveloped the boy. Inside the beam of light, Naruto underwent a change. The wounds on his body stitched themselves back together, not leaving so much as scratch, let alone a scar in their place. As the light dimmed, Naruto stayed suspended in midair momentarily and then slowly floated back down to the ground ever so softly. Kryngin let out a laugh of relief. He half expected the boy to die from the effects. This spell was never done on a human before. Kryngin was relieved his gamble saved Naruto's life. Even more excited, he notices the wound on his back no longer bled and sealed itself. However, from here on out, Naruto would face many challenges from here on out. The power he gave him would require intense training, or it would consume him and kill him. Kryngin picked up the scent of a group coming in his direction. He needs to make himself scarce fast, but he left some parting words for the boy, life will be hard from here on out Naruto. Do not worry, I will help you along the way. I hope you like my gift. With that said he ran off into the woods to find a new hiding spot. Mount Myaboku. In the land of the Mount Myaboku, home of the legendary Toad summons, a storm brewed. The rain was a common occurrence of land, but to one of the elder toads, this was foreboding. Deep in a room with a collection of scrolls where the only source of light came from large pyres. Sitting in a chair that could match a tall building sat a brown in color, white-bellied, is a very wrinkly toad. This was Gamamaru, the Agama Sannin. The old toad had taken up squinting to read because of his old age. He wears a professor's hat with tassels and an orb on top of it. He also wears a necklace with the toad's village symbol for oil on it. He sat and read a scroll where he had down a prophecy of Child of Prophecy. He sat in comfortable silence until a large gust of wind came shooting through his little room, causing the pyres to go out. Gamamaru looked up from the scroll of interest and stared out into the now pitch black. Oh. What's this? Gamamaru said to himself. A gust of wind during a storm would be nothing more than an annoyance to most. However, to Gamamaru, something like this was a sign from what he did not know. I see change is on the horizon. What is the change, I wonder? That was when the scroll on his little table started to smoke. Some would call it a coincidence, but Gamamaru read more into it. Ah, I see. The prophecy is now set in motion. The friend has given his gift to one of the trees. I wonder how the prophecy will play out. The old toad let out a chuckle as the flame on the scroll died out, leaving a burn mark on the paper. His laughter then turned to a coughing fit, and he sat back in a relaxed position and took a large corn pipe in his mouth and enjoyed the smoke from the tobacco. Thicket Minato, Hayashi, and Hizashi looked around at the damage to the small wooded area. It was similar to the remains of a war-affected land. The land was scorched, leaving nothing but ash in one side of the thicket. A bloody puddle of what was once a person was mashed into the ground, and finally a body that looked as if it was ripped apart by a large pack of dogs. Hayashi quickly went over the sack that contained his daughter and, to his relief, found her unharmed and still fast asleep. Seeing the damage of the surrounding area, he feared that her life may have been taken, but thankfully that was not the case. Hayashi scooped her up in her arms and cradled her, letting tears run down his eyes in happiness. He was continually whispering soft words of comfort to her, but Minato guessed it was more for Hayashi. Suddenly an umbu with long purple hair who was wearing a cat mask stepped in front of Minato and got into a kneeling position. Hokagesima, please come quick. Minato quickly followed the woman, hearing the urgency into her voice. They soon came upon a group of umbu surrounding something a circle. Minato arrived, and the umbu parted to allow their leader through. Minato saw what they were looking over. His son lay motionless on the ground and his clothing in tatters. Minato's breath hitched in his throat. He felt the world shatter around him. He felt like a failure for the first time in his life since the Kyubi incident. His oldest son had been out in the woods alone and fighting for his life, and he wasn't there to protect him. He felt his hands shake. How was he going to explain this to Kushina? He ran over and slid to his knees and placed an ear on Naruto's chest. Within seconds he heard the sound of a steady heartbeat. Minato was ready to start crying. His tears were halted as he quickly picked up his son into his arms. I am going to get him to the hospital. Collect the remains of the Kumo shinobi and meet me in my office in 30 minutes. Am I understood? Minato received a chorus of, yes sir, from his men. Minato looked as his men collecting the dead. He would be sending a message. Right now, he needed to make sure his son was okay. He disappeared in a flash of yellow. One day later, Kumogakure no Sato the Yondaime Reikage. I sat in his office. I was a bull of a man with dark skin, white hair combed back, a small mustache, and goatee. His face has pronounced cheekbones and tear troughs under his eyes, and a prominent crease across his forehead. He has pointed canines, and his top lip also has a darker hue than the bottom one. He was hoping to hear back from Kenichi by now. He hoped the idiot was able to bring a Hyuga back by now. He folded his hand and stared up at the ceiling of his office. A sly smile crossed his lips. He was actually giddy with anticipation. If he was perfectly honest, he could care less if Kenichi brought one back, and if he did, it was the icing on the cake. I really wanted to know how his old rival has been since becoming Hokage and then becoming a father. I wanted to see if the man had become soft since becoming a father. A knock at the door ended his musing. Enter, his deep voice called out to the knock. A young dark-skinned, green-eyed woman walked in the office. The lady that entered the office wearing a black very formal attire consisting of a long-sleeved, high-collared dress shirt and skirt, along with a pair of long earrings and sandals. She wears her light gray hair pulled back into a bun with two bangs that fall on either side of her face. This was Mabui, a kunoichi, an assistant to Rikagesima. We have received this from Konoha. She pulled out a scroll from her sleeve and placed it on the desk. I saw that it was a storage scroll. He quickly examined it, seeing that it was not trapped. The man opened the scroll, saw a message written, and began to read it to himself. Hello I. Inside the scroll, you will find what remains of your men. I looked at 3 kanji that occupied the seal areas, already grimacing at the results of his mission. You have wronged my village, but more importantly you went after my best friend's daughter. I nearly disintegrated the scroll in his hand. It became clear what his shinobi had done. Not only have you damaged a poor girl, but then you had the nerve to after my son. As I read on, it became apparent Kenichi became too overzealous in the mission and tried not only to kidnap the Hyuga clan heiress but also one of Minato's runts as well. The fucking idiot would be facing an execution right now if he was still alive. The scroll started to smoke and released the bodies of his men. I had been a veteran of war. He had seen many atrocities that can be done in a war and what it can do a human's body. However, what he saw in front of him was some of the worst he had seen. A heavily decomposed body of one of his men appeared, looking as if it was ravaged by a beast of some sort. The next to appear was an urn that looked like the one someone would get if they received it from a crematorium. The final thing to appear was a body bag that jiggled and shook, making a swishing noise similar to a water balloon. I was taken aback by the brutality that his men went through. Mabui stared horrified at the bodies, almost causing her to gag and nearly lose the contents of her stomach. Mabui continued to stare when she noticed something spreading across the bodies. Mabui didn't know what it was but cried out to alert her leader, Raikajessima. Ice's attention was drawn by his assistant, which was pointing at the corpses. Looking over at them, he saw the cause for concern. There were seal arrays on the bodies, and they were glowing. He quickly grabbed Mabui in an embrace and shielded them from the light. Then an explosion roared, and the windows and most of the room were destroyed. Multiple men came rushing in to inspect caused this and to attend to their leader. The room itself was filled with smoke, making it impossible to see. Many were calling out to their leader, expecting the worst. Then booming laughter came from inside the smoke, causing all the men to widen their eyes. So Minadono, looks like you haven't grown soft on me. Standing in the middle of the room with only his coat gone was the Raikage and a shaken Mabui, who was leaning into the man for comfort. Konoha Hospital. Naruto was laying peacefully in a bed as the white sheets covered his body. The only sounds that resonated in the room were the sounds of breathing and monitors beating. Naruto had been in this state for 2 weeks since he was found in the woods. On the windowsill of the room were many bouquets of flowers from the shinobi clans and a few civilians. As the rays of the sun settled on the boy's face, Naruto's eyes snapped open. He quickly rose up and inhaled big gulps of breath as if he had drowned. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Make sure to like, share and subscribe. This is Raven Sage signing off.